That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Dog and Chicken Show. We are live tonight. Wanted to kick this back to our old ways of doing the episodic and topic driven. But however, we are, still in the midst of COVID. So we'll get to tonight's main topic later on in the show. But we're going to open this bad boy up with current news and, what to pay attention to and the crap you don't need to pay attention to. So stick around for more info on the Benoit conspiracy. Of course, we need our local expert, King of Extreme, Mr. Wrestling God himself, that can't get the title back from me. We'll see. We'll see what he's got to say. In the meantime, Tony, welcome to the show, bud. How you doing, man?
Thank you much. I'm doing all right. I'm friggin' exhausted. Spent pretty much all weekend outside. I got a little sunburn here and a little sunburn here. I don't know. I managed to get like a strip. It's like just one little strip of skin. I don't know.
Sexy tan.
Yeah, nothing sexy about pasty white having red on it. It's awful. It's awful.
It's awful. While we're waiting on Mr. King of Extreme to eventually join us, we did bring Cameron back. How's it going, Pickles?
Oh, I'm here. Good old Cameron Pickles. I'm surviving.
You're surviving. You want to introduce tonight's drinking game?
So we have open, as in reference to like opening or reopening places, decline for the lack of cases, protest, and sexual.
What's that about?
Joe Biden's always on our minds.
Oh, creepy Joe. Creepy Uncle Joe. That's fantastic. As always, oh, God, you're doing the Phil thing. Did Phil pay you to do that?
Nope, but I'm filling in for it.
Phil called him. He's like, hey, Tony, I'm running late. Yeah. Shake the shit in the mic, all right?
Real quick, while Tony's pouring his drink and we talk about what we're drinking tonight, make sure you check us out at the Locals page. You can download the Ribbon Report app and sign up to dogchickshow.locals.com. Really easy to use, and you can join our little echo chamber there. Still trying to build that site up. It's free. It's fun. Post whatever you want, and don't worry about being shamed. Unless you're a Karen, then we might tell you to leave. But don't be a Karen. Folks, just don't be a Karen. Also, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube and all of your podcasting needs for any prior episodes. We are working on the COVID Chronicles being an audio version only, so if you want to listen to it on Spotify, when you go back to work, says like we're all going back to work pretty soon, which sounds pretty cool. Some people don't think so, but hey, if you're getting ready to go back to work, cool. You can check out and see how it all started and where it all went, and might get reminded of some of the stupid shit we went through over the last couple months here. I was doing some timeline research, and I'll pop up some of the memes later. I got 25 memes for us tonight. I don't know if I'll fit them all in. Yes,
that's what she said.
Don't be a Karen. Yes, that is what she said. I will try to fit in, but there was one. It was a Pornhub graph of March 13th when Trump announced the country national emergency.
Down.
And so us always doing what we do with the Pornhub reviews and yearly stats.
Especially because they started offering it free for premium and stuff. Yes. So they're like, yeah, you're locked up. Go ahead and jerk off.
Yeah, everybody can get the free shit. Porn stars can't socially distance and make a film anymore, I guess. So poor gals, they got to make some. Well, now they can't even make
a lot of solo scenes, I suppose.
I suppose. So real quick, Tony, what you drinking tonight, fella?
Currently I have a little bit of my homemade Kahlua, and I'm mixing it with vanilla Yoo-hoo.
Jesus.
Wow. We got our first drink there. Thanks, Bernie. Bernie, as always, getting us drunk. Appreciate you.
Marvelous.
What you got, Kevin? You took a step up and grabbed some man stuff, didn't you?
I did, but for now I'm finishing this Guinness before I switch over, but I am currently drinking some Glenlivet 15. So
nice. You have to tell us how that is. I think we've all tried that one after Kevin gets a little sip of that one. You've had that before, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we did the line, we did the 12, the founders, the 14, the 15, and the 18.
And they
Yes,
were all
love 'em.
fantastic.
Yes,
I
love
may
me
have
some
been
Glenn Levitt.
inebriated, but they were all fantastic. And
You're just an awful person.
Wow.
let's
Yeah.
just all have we'll count that as one because
Yeah.
we all know who that is,
Yeah.
and he can kiss.
Well, I
my
don't know
ass.
who that is, so
Oh.
you have to.
Well, let's keep it that
Oh,
way.
keep it that way. I'll
I'll
put
fight-
it.
Yeah,
I'll,
we gotta
I'll
keep
put it
some
in the
mystery.
private chat for us. What should I drink tonight, fellas? I still have. We've done plenty of Dalmore on this show. I still got a half bottle of Redbreast 12. I did buy this Arbor Lure. It's a 12-year double cast.
Abelard,
Ablar? I don't know how you say
I
it.
think.
Admiral
I think that's
Akbar.
how you do it.
I got some Lagavulin 8-year. I got a 10-year Glen Meringue. And I still got a little bit of Oban Little Bay. And you know what? It's actually pronounced Oban. I found that out the other day when I was at the liquor store. The guy corrected me.
Oh,
Well, I have some anal leakage
not
that
know
I
that.
could like pour out for you if you really want something to
Yeah.
drink.
I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'm drinking Crown right now, Curtis. I want to switch over to some Scotch, but yes, I started the night off. That's my primer. Is usually Crown or Templeton's my primer before I hit the Scotch. So, again, the choices: Dalmore, Aberlour, Redbreast. Maybe just finish off Redbreast because I don't know. We're talking about sexual assault tonight. Drink.
Damn it.
Yeah, we'll get into that story and many others. Fantastic. That's a good start. Don't forget, later on the show, folks, keep coming with the comments. Later on the show, we will get to tonight's topic, which is Chris Benoit conspiracy. We'll let you know who, if you're a wrestling fan, you already know who he is. But if you're new to wrestling or just, don't know that well, we'll give you a total breakdown who he was, what happened, and what.
You don't even have
what the
to be
theories
a
are.
fan of wrestling to really pay attention to this story and understand how messed up it was. Like the people that like watching the true crime stories or the murder porn as they call it. This is one of those crazy effed up stories that those people appreciate. I mean, it's an older situation. It's been several years, but we'll get into it in deeper detail.
It's sad.
It's pretty messed up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention, I did get my skull ice cubes in. It's might be a little hard to see. I don't want to get them all over my equipment here, but
like
this
it.
one's not quite frozen yet, but I grabbed it early just for my first drink because it'll have a little water in there. So it'll be nice. It'll be like a little watered down and on the rocks. So that'll work. But I do have a fully frozen one, so I can show you on my next drink as those thaw out a little bit so I can actually get them out of my rubber casing. These things are cool, though. They look like pretty cool little miniature skulls.
I know, I liked it. You sent a picture of it the other night. I liked it. I have to give me that.
He sent it
were
right
only
after he
like-
sent the dick
They were
pic.
only like, yeah, it was after the dick pic. They were only like $12 on Amazon, I think.
For two,
Nice.
or
You get a 2 packs of 4. They're not very big cubes, but they're pretty cool. I like them.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, fun fact. Yes, I bought them on Amazon. Fuck off.
I don't think Walmart carries custom skull ice cube trays.
No, I would doubt it.
Oh, he's got so many questions. We'll get to that, Curtis. First thing I wanted to bring up tonight, I was actually talking to a friend of mine that used to work for me, went into the place that employs me. I never really like bringing up the name of the place that employs me. I think most of you already know, but I just don't like to talk about it. And it's just, yeah. Anonymity's sake, in case somebody just like tries to clickbait anything or like pull anything out of context someday. I don't know. I'm sure.
Walmart employee hates everyone.
Thanks, you fucking prick.
Wow. Talk about anonymity. Good job.
Yep. So Kevin's a
really?
ginger. Did anybody
Yes.
know Kevin's
Yes.
Kevin's a little ginger prick?
I noticed from the lack of soul.
Yes, he has no soul. Anyway, so former employee of mine, she had sent me a text of, "Hey, me and some of my coworkers are getting kicked out of the store," and I'm like, "What? Like, why? What happened? What's going on down there?" I'm like, give me some context. People just don't get kicked out for no reason. She's like, "We got kicked out of this store, this store, this store, multiple different chains. It's not just the one, but this is in northern Missouri, close to Kansas City." Only bigger town nearby there in Missouri, by the way. You can fucking figure that one out pretty quick. But people there are so goddamn freaked out and panic. If they have a logo of the meat packing plant on their shirt, they're telling them to fucking leave. Now, we see all the news is all like, hey, fuck the protesters, fuck this, and these people shouldn't be out there. They're not social distancing. Like, that's what everybody's like trying to panic about on Twitter, and I'm seeing it bleed into Facebook a little bit, and everybody's got their own opinion. You got the Karens out there telling people to fucking go home. I might be able to find that video. I don't know if you've seen the school teacher that screamed at a kid and told him, I hope you get COVID and die. That'll be a fun one to talk about. But like, if you're wearing a logo for the company you work for and you walk into a supermarket or a chain of retail stores, and they know that there was tests came positive from that plant, and then they tell you to go home, I'm like, this is like it's the weirdest version of fascism bleeding into our country that I never saw this coming. Like, I get people paranoia, and I thought it would be minimal. Like, I get there's going to be a couple people that do that, right? There's going to be 2 or 3 people that just like, get away. And like, but stores kicking people out because they have a fucking logo on their shirt. Jesus Christ. We're in fucking Nazi Germany all of a sudden. Okay. I'm conflating that a little bit, but like, seriously though, that is scary. That's where we're at. Everybody's like, oh, calm down. They're not coming for your guns, but they'll kick you out of a fucking store, like, because you're wearing a logo on your shirt. Like, when does it stop? Like, it's getting bad. That's gotta be scary. Tony, thoughts?
Yeah, it's unfortunately, if you work at a meatpacking plant or anything similar, and there's a spread fear of that right now, don't wear the shirt into the store, I guess would be my first thought. But yeah, no, it's
hold on. You're going to tell people what they can and can't wear then?
Well, do you want to go in the store and deal with the hassle or not? Is it really worth the hassle?
I get your point, but like, I just got off work and I want to pick up groceries on my way home. Fuck you, I'm not changing my shirt.
It's not right, bullshit. But at the same time,
well, I mean,
it is bullshit. But at the same fucking time, you got to understand that not everybody is stopping with
so I have to give up my freedoms for your fear.
It's a shirt. It's not a gun. I know
no,
that's where
fear.
I know
fear.
right deep down here in the cockles, you're trying to compare this to the gun rights.
No,
yes, but it's a shirt. And if you're not contagious and you're not one of the people who's contracted this thing, just take the shirt off. But I get it. But
it comes from a lack of
it's like
understanding,
labeling somebody from a concentration camp. I know that's where you're going with it. We're putting the name and the marker on the arm. No, it's not going to get to that point. But people are still freaked out, and it's not right. But we're still in the midst of this thing, and right now the big hot topic button issue is the meatpacking plants. So, yeah, it's shitty, and they shouldn't be profiling that way. But it's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen because people are still freaked out. Not everybody's coming down off this. So everybody's still, high alert. If they see somebody with a red flag, people are going to freak out. And that's just the way the world works. Not even during a pandemic. It's just anything.
So comment, how you present yourself matters. Yes, to an extent, for a fucking job interview.
Going to a Walmart wearing a shirt, one, that falls more under like the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Like, because you're able to wear whatever you want that says whatever you want, because that's the First Amendment that everyone actually cares about more than the Second Amendment, if anything.
Yeah, there's a reason it's the first.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like silly that just because you're even relatively like, what if I was like a fan of like that meatpacking plant for some reason and had like a
Maybe
t-shirt?
Your wife worked there.
Yeah, like, and I wear a shirt to the office to like grocery store or something, and they kick me out. That's just absurd. That's putting everyone into a category based off of a simple thing that doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
and so should I get a white T-shirt and a fucking black Sharpie and write "I have COVID-19" and then go into a store?
No, but
that's my right.
Yeah,
that's my right.
You can.
I could, but should I do that?
I'm not going to take you serious. You shouldn't, but I'm not going to take you serious. So you're saying that it's the worker's fault?
No, I'm absolutely.
That's
not
what you
saying
just
that.
implied, though. Like,
no, it's not.
You're saying that
What
the
I'm
person who
implying
walked it,
is you have to be aware. It comes down to be aware of everybody else around you as well. I understand taking it personally and taking it, thinking about it only selfishly and thinking about yourself first. And people should do that. But you also have to think about people around you because not everybody's going to be level-headed. You can't expect and demand other people to be level-headed because if you're demanding somebody else to act a certain way, you're taking away their fucking rights. You got to think about other people too.
unless it's someone who employs you and controls your income, no one else's opinion fucking matters.
You're going to a place of business. You're going to a store for essential stuff. You want to get in and out without fucking causing a scene.
So
there's an easy way to do it.
Here's the argument I would give to you, Tony, is it's the business's right to say, I don't want you in here. I don't want you to wear this.
Sure.
That's why a private business can restrict, we don't want open carry in our store. We want you to wear clothing. Like those are basic requirements. So the business can make those decisions. So I agree with you on that point. But
Yes.
Well,
when does it become discrimination at a certain point? Like, hey, I know he works for such and such, so he's a bad person and he's dirty and might have a disease.
So that's like, oh, I know that guy's a Jew. Go take him out of his house.
I'm taking that one and clipping it down and posting that on Facebook, Kevin.
Yeah.
Nobody knows because we're talking about somebody going into a store. Nobody's trying to pull somebody out of their house. It hasn't gotten to that fucking point yet.
But if what these people want to happen should happen, they need to clarify everything instead of just like going around being like, oh, you're wearing this shirt that we didn't tell anyone not to wear, like that we're concerned about. Get the fuck out. Like that's essentially what's happening. If they are concerned about that kind of thing, like people from whatever meatpacking plant or beer bottling plant or whatever going to their store, put a notice on the front because that's the simplest way to get it. That's the simplest. They can. They can. If
they can do it.
Oh, dude, I see signs on the front of. I went into Hy-Vee the other day just to check out and see, like, are you guys still having problems with toilet paper? And I wanted to get some cheap whiskey. But as I walk in the door, they're like, please stay 6 feet away, and we ask that you wear a mask. But like they weren't enforcing it, but it's on the front door. Please wear a mask.
Yeah.
But if
I walk in and not wearing a mask, and they said, hey, I got a sign at the front door, you need to either put on a mask or leave. I'll go, oh, okay. Like you're a private business. I'm gonna respect your wishes. You alerted it at the front door. Maybe I missed it. My bad. Like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but Tony's saying that they can't do that. I mean, if they can kick people out,
they can do it. But here's what's going to happen if they put a sign on the front door. Somebody's going to take their phone. They're going to take a picture of that. They're going to put it on Facebook, and they're going to blast that store, and it's going to be a whole shitstorm.
They're already dealing with
it's a shitstorm no matter what.
They're already blasting people by, like, people are already attacking whatever organizations.
Nah, they're too worried about the protests. Drink.
You fucking cunt. But they're already like everyone's already getting attacked for every little thing. So if they just put a sign up, who cares? If they're trying to cover their own bases and prevent said meatpacking plant employees from entering or whatever else, then a simple sign prevents them from having to kick people out and look even worse.
Yeah, because all those gun-free, tobacco-free zone signs do so much fucking good. Look, a sign's not going to do shit. The people are going to do what the hell they want, when they want, however they want to do it. Some people are scared, some people aren't. And if somebody who works at a certain meat plant that has a big outbreak walks into a store wearing a big, hey, I work at that meat packing plant, or I don't, or I just own the shirt. It doesn't really matter. You walk in, people know that right now because everybody's freaked out about it. You walk in, you need to expect that everybody's gonna be like, oh God, I need to stand further away from him. It's paranoia. You got to understand that. You got to be aware of other people around you because even if you know damn well that you don't have it, other people are going to look at you and freak out. And some people freak out too much. And some people are going to take it to an extreme, and some people are going to be complete assholes about it. And again, we've talked about this. Some people have it and don't even fucking know it. So even somebody who knows they don't have it, maybe they don't know that they don't have it.
So here's some more facts behind it, though.
Gray area.
So here's some more facts behind it, though. I talked to my friend that is experiencing this, and I gave her advice on how to deal with the company because that's not the policy of the company. First off. So that should not be happening. It sounds like just stupid people making stupid decisions locally. I don't know how widespread this is across the country, but if a medium-sized city in the middle of Missouri is having this problem, I could see this could potentially be in all over the place. But that said, I was like, hey, like, where did this paranoia come from? Like, why are they doing this? And they're like, well, they tested all 3,500 employees and 300 of them had it, but all of us got tested. Every one of us got tested. 300 got quarantined and told to stay home. So they all got tested. They all know if they have it or not. And the 300 that did were told to go quarantine, but they're treating all 3,500 as if they all have it.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. Like the lack of knowledge and facts. Now we can make fun of Missouri and Southerners all we want, but like this is a real scenario. Like it's not that far from where either of you are.
To do? So like
deal with it. You're wearing a fucking mask or not? Like if you don't want to catch it, don't go outside.
You go on Facebook and go, okay, hey, guy that's 8 foot away from me, what's your name? I need to punch into Facebook, and I need to see if you're one of them that has it. Or are we going to put a big fucking red A on them? To signify, hey, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm wearing my shirt, but I'm good.
No, if they have it, they need to stay home.
Okay.
If they don't, then they're good.
Yeah. But people aren't doing that. People that know they have it aren't even fucking staying home and aren't taking it seriously.
Guess what?
Because everybody's talking about the fucking death rate.
Guess what? When Phil gets on here, there'll be 4 people on the screen, and 3 of the 4 of us will have it within the next month and a half.
Yeah, probably.
So what? Well, like that's my argument is like why cause so much chaos and panic over something you're probably going to get anyway? Like we slowed it down.
It depends on how badly it's going to affect certain individuals.
Well, it's going to affect you the same today as it would in a month. So like, see, that's my point. Like,
so get it quicker. It's not the chicken
It's gonna
pox.
suck. It's gonna suck either way. Like,
it's gonna suck worse for some people.
For some people,
it comes down to this. Like some people have a shitty.
If you have a problem, stay home. And don't go to Walmart. Don't go to Kmart. Don't go to Target. Don't go to the big fucking buildings. Go to a local grocery store and go early when nobody else is there. There's ways around this, and everybody just like fucking like we all have to bend the knee to fucking everybody else's paranoia. I don't agree with it. I actually started wearing a mask. I said I wouldn't, but my employer told me I had to, so I started doing it. And I'm like, you know what? It's not that bad unless my breath smells like ass. Then you can really taste it, but. That was my only complaint. I needed gum that day. But no, do you see my point, Tony? Like there's, if I have to conform to fear, why can't fear conform a little bit? Like, let's find a compromise here. Like, why does everybody have to change?
You're not going to get that across to everybody, though, because people are set in their ways. Obviously, you're set in your way. You absolutely do not want to allow yourself to conform even a little bit, even if it means setting a person that you don't know's mind at ease. That's fine.
I'm actually following the rules that I thought were stupid.
So
yeah, and here's the thing. Can you still hear me? Yeah, you can still fucking hear me. So guess what? These masks aren't doing shit other than making people feel a little bit more fucking comfortable. The goddamn gloves aren't helping anything because everybody's still touching the same. Okay, you go to Walmart.
The gloves are.
I got all this shit. I put the shit in my cart and I take the fucking gloves off. Guess what? You're gonna touch the shit that you bought without gloves at home. So the gloves don't do shit. That's what?
The fun part.
There's only certain fucking things that are going to actually prevent this, and there's a fucking shortage of those. We went over this shit 2 fucking months ago. So wash your hands, use a sanitizer, and stay the fuck away from people. Here's the thing. Like it or not,
agree.
Some people are going to be more scared about this than other people. And there are people that genuinely should be scared about this because their immune systems can't fucking handle it and bounce back like most of us will be.
So one of my main points is if those people, like, one, there's delivery apps for everything. The people with compromised immune systems, if they're that concerned and want to like yell at people who are threatening their safety, why be out and about in the first place?
They don't have to be out and about. They can live in a house with somebody. They can be quarantined since fucking February. And they're still going to have to interact with somebody. Okay, so you order the fucking Uber Eat. They come to your door. Somebody that's perfectly healthy goes and gets it and washes their hands after it. And then they take it to the fucking person with the compromised immune system. There's still a chance they're going to catch it, no matter what we do.
But with that, then what? Like, why like bend your fucking entire life around people who are concerned about anything? Like, why?
Well, I guess there's the idea that the Earth's eventually going to fall into the sun, so I should probably just go outside and set myself on fire now, because eventually it's going to happen.
No,
now you're conflating. All right.
No, I'm not.
But it's just nonsensical to it. It falls along the lines of people with their like preferred pronouns and shit like that. Like, no one in the world fucking does it unless they're like genuinely like friends with that person. They actually like say the pronoun that person prefers. But if someone comes up to you and says, I prefer this pronoun, and then just walks away from you, like you're not going to give two shits. So someone's coming up to you and saying like, don't wear that shirt because you work at that factory. It's the same fucking thing. Don't give a shit. Like, so if people are that concerned, they're going to stay away. And if people are going to yell in your face, then they're just an idiot and they're doing the opposite of what they're telling you to do. If someone gets in your face,
that proud of their T-shirt, that's really going to cause this big of a scene.
No, but like Chicken's saying, if I go to a grocery store wearing like my company shirt and I don't have it, I tested, I'm clear, I'm wearing a mask, right. I'm conforming to all the social guidelines that are already there in place, and someone comes up to me and tells me to leave the store, they can go fuck themselves. I'm going to buy groceries.
If we're talking about a time where we're not dealing with a health crisis, then it's a dick move. But right now, everybody's gonna have to make small adjustments and small fucking sacrifices to not only set themselves at ease but other people at ease. That's what the people are talking about when they're saying we're all in this together. And unfortunately, we're not all in this together. Everybody's situation is different, and it's not one big fucking pool. We're all in a different situation, whether we like it or not, whether we live in the same town or state or not, or country. It's a different situation for everybody. So being in this all together doesn't necessarily mean we're all in the same fucking boat, because we're not. But this is hitting.
No, they don't want to get in the same boat.
No, nobody wants to be in the same.
You get in your own boat.
I'm just saying it's like completely ridiculous. Because if you put yourself in that shoe, like you went to the grocery store dead tired after work, and someone tells you to leave, and you can't buy the groceries for your family, you're saying you just be okay and leave?
No, that's absolutely no. I'd put on a different shirt for one. Before I went in the fucking store.
But if they don't tell anybody about their policy, and then you walk in there and you aren't aware of how that person that runs the store feels, you're going to be okay with just having to go and change a shirt and then go back to the grocery store?
It's going to be a pain in the ass, but yeah, I'm going to do it if I absolutely need fucking groceries. Because I'm not going to be so stubborn that I go, you know what? Nope, I'm just not going to eat this week.
No, just fucking stay in there and buy the groceries, because it's
right. And to Tony's point, nobody's gonna just like shut down their grocery shopping or their family needs or anything because one store's being an asshole. You'll go down the road to the next store that might be more inviting. But like honestly, the point I was trying to make before we had this debate, which was kind of fun.
It was
in the way I see it, you have to take the emotion out of it a little bit. Like it's so easy to get worked up and emotional about all of this. And every time I see people making a terrible decision or talking shit and trash and posting terrible stuff and yelling at people and the Karens in the world, we're going to talk about Karen. We should have made Karen a drinking word tonight. But my point though is, we got to calm down. Like, like Tony said, we're supposed to all be in this together. We're not going to be. Like, you're going to have little factions and little groups. We're tribal. Like, at heart, as human beings, we're tribal. So we're going to fight and bicker, and we're going to point the finger at other people. Yes, Tony and even Bernie said it. Bernie, would you take your shirt off or change your shirt? I need to know.
No, I think she's saying she would just take her shirt off in front of the employee. Be like, all right, I can't wear this. Here you go.
That's a hell of a protest, Bernie. I like it. But like, no, the common sense. Yeah, you're right. If I know I'm going to get harassment, yeah, I would likely do that. That's a common sense move. Just take your shirt off or change your shirt or take your shirt off. I don't care, whatever. And then go into the store and nobody will know, nobody will be the wiser. But like if maybe I'm going to play devil's advocate here and take Tony's side for a second. I don't necessarily agree with Tony, but I can see Phil or Kevin, I almost called you Phil, is itching. So if I know that I go into this particular store and I have a t-shirt logo and they're going to kick me out just because I work at a meat packing plant and that meat packing plant has COVID and they're going to discriminate against me because of where I work. Okay. Am I doing it to just get aroused and see if I get kicked out, knowing it's a possibility? Like, what's my motive at that point? Did my motive change because I know it's going to affect me that way? Like, is it okay at that point for somebody to do it on purpose?
No, I mean, if they like state their like intention of their policy, then don't wear a shirt and be an asshole. But what I'm saying is that if no one was aware of the policy and people are getting harassed about it, that's a whole nother story. Like, it's one thing for like a company to have like their stated policy like on a door, like plastered with signs saying like, don't do this or you're going to get removed from the store. Like, okay, that makes sense. But if you're just like, you walk into the store and no one's told you anything about it, like you haven't heard any kind of word, and the manager walks up to you and says, "Get out," like come the fuck on.
Yeah.
Like,
well, okay, let's take it a step and do local. Okay, here. Yeah, we're not. No, we are. We're in exactly, and that pretty much sums up Chicken's thinking on this. You're infringing on my rights. Yeah, we're all in this together in theory, but no, everybody's situation is absolutely different. But nobody's immune to this. That's the thing.
We did miss a drink there, by the way.
Let's talk about this locally. Here in Fillmore County in Nebraska, we're up to 2 cases now. One came from Exeter, one in Geneva. I don't know the details on the one in Geneva. Another kid in his 20s. The one in Exeter was a kid in his 20s. Guess what? He went and purposely, after he knew he had it, supposedly was going around and fucking trying to go into Casey's to be a prick, to maybe intentionally try to spread it to other people, being nonchalant about it.
See,
that's
level of shit
disgusting.
Like, that level of shit is like unacceptable. Like I said, if they have a sign and say don't,
he doesn't have a shirt that says, "Hey, I've got it."
Yeah. Like
they just didn't know it.
Can we make that shirt? I bet
I've got it.
I've got it. I got it. That's a South Dakota thing.
No, you gotta do the got milk, got COVID? Question mark.
Well, South Dakota's like whole statement on fighting meth was it showed the state of South Dakota. And it said meth. We got this or something like that.
Yeah,
we got it. Yeah. Do COVID.
So what do you think is worse? Somebody being discriminated against because of the shirt that they wore. No, that's not right. Nobody should ever be discriminated against for anything. Is that worse, or is some random dude who knows he has it going in and trying to anonymously spread it? It's so fucking bad that. And luckily, this is local, so they knew who he was. They were able to keep him out.
Rumors are he got fined.
It's awful.
Yeah. Who was it? Whoever.
I don't want to call his name out on here.
Whoever.
Don't want to dox anybody, but the local folks that Tony's dealing with. The rumor is he had up to a $15,000 fine.
No,
which, hey, I'm down with that.
Yeah, if you're being a willful asshole and trying to spread, like, just go out and about when you're told not to, when you have it, then don't, like, you're just a piece of shit and you deserve the fine. But no, like, absolutely not. Like, not wearing a shirt and getting kicked out, or wearing a shirt and getting kicked out is not by any means worse than someone willfully spreading it, because that's just
and
monstrous.
Tiffany's point there. I did see this. I did go to Menards. I saw people without masks and people with kids, and none of them got kicked out.
No.
So, like, if you're gonna set a arbitrary rule, you better actually, like.
It could have also been like localized for that Menards. Maybe.
And that was a local thing here in Sioux Falls. Like we had a little outbreak here in Sioux Falls. So we had a little panic moment for 2 weeks. Things are calming down now, but yeah, no, that was more of a local thing.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I see that at Menards here in what was it, Hastings? They're doing that too. And since this has been going on, haven't taken my kids into Walmart since this even started springing up. I've been going in by myself. I've been wearing a mask the last 2 times I'm in there. Not wearing gloves. That's fucking stupid. I carry the fucking sanitizer. Every time I touch something that I don't put in my cart, wiping my hands. But you know who else is in there? Families of 5, car seats, kids, no masks. So there's no fucking enforcement happening in most of these places.
Yeah.
And that's probably good.
That's what I'm talking about. You've got to understand not everybody's situation's the same, but there are people just ignoring it completely, all willy-nilly, caution to the wind. And then you've got to look out for yourself.
It is strange because I'll be out one day and everybody's got a mask on and everybody's super cautious. And then, so I'll give you an example. So Thursday, I need to go mow the yard, and my weed eater motor went out. So I'm like, well, shit, I'm gonna run to the store and I'm gonna go pick up a new trimmer. So I get there and everybody's wearing masks, and like, and it's almost like you like, it's a herd mentality. I'm like, oh shit, all these people wearing masks. So, I suppose I'll put on one, and I just running in, grabbing one thing, running out. Okay. I'll play along, for everybody else's comfort. Okay. Like, I got to make sure the Tonys of the world are okay with me shopping. I'm picking on you.
Don't be mean.
But no, for real. Like, so I go in, I go out, get my stuff, I go home. Well, and then Friday, my goddamn blower went out. So like all my equipment's breaking down on me. By the way, I just got to buy all new shit.
Can you do that?
Thanks for the COVID bucks, Trump. But so I go to buy a new blower. I go to the exact same store. Not a fucking person was wearing a mask. It was crazy. One day later. Like everybody's attitude changed. I just it baffled me.
Yeah,
I was the only guy in the store wearing a mask. All of a sudden, I'm like, God, what the fuck?
I feel like it's just
you don't want to be the only one.
People, it's like they're not used to it thing, so they're just not gonna do it. They're gonna like do it initially and be like, oh well, we're scared. We gotta do this, but then like. It's like trying to like wear like a hat for the first time in like years or something. People are gonna be like, I can't, like, it's uncomfortable. I'm gonna take it off for the day. Like, but they just don't wear it because it's uncomfortable and it's just dumb.
Yeah. So Matt had posted, I'll pull it up again real quick, but mentioned parents got masks and kids don't. First, they shouldn't be bringing kids. No. Like if you have an outbreak area, they've literally said, hey. Like I've seen signs around here of one person per shopping cart. Like only one person needs to be shopping for your family. Like quit this shit. It's all recommendation. It's not being enforced here. It's just, hey, like everybody play by the rules and nobody will die. Well, is kind of the attitude here.
You would figure that people would care about their kids not to take them places because kids and elderly are the at risk.
Yeah.
Well, and compromised immune systems. But
Bernie just likes saying sexual. That's all that was.
Yeah, she does.
Drink.
Because she's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, that wants to take her shirt off if somebody kicks her out.
She's like, you're kicking me out? Woo!
So Matt had mentioned that I got the Ardbeg back here. This is the 12-year. It's really, really peaty. I remember the first time I tried it, I was a little inebriated, Tony. This is way peatier than I thought it was, but it's still not one that I could sit and drink all night. But it is good for. I just did a little bit of splash of water and a couple of cubes of ice, and it's still really good. But it's not one that I could sit there and pound away like I could with like a red breast or a Dalmore. That Dalmore, Jesus, I could put that whole bottle down tonight. Like that'd be bad, but I could do it.
Yeah, Dalmore's too smooth. So if you get the water ice cube ratio right, oof,
I do like the peaty stuff though. Like it's good in moderation. Like it's one of those. I appreciate the flavor, you know. And everybody always has that really expensive bottle of scotch that they just like let sit there, and they only have a couple of drinks every now and then. You give me that one, dude, I'll have that fucker half gone in a night. But this is one of those ones that I can sit there and just sip on slowly and enjoy my night and not get hammered. That's what it's all about. I like this stuff. Sorry.
I don't know.
I went on a tangent about scotch.
The peaty stuff, it's got to be done right. If it's all peat, just pass. I got better stuff I can drink. I'll go get a bottle.
No, this is good.
If you got to chew it through the smoke, it's too much peat.
Oh, it's not that much smoke. It's got a lot of thicker spice to it, more like a ginger and.
All right, Matt, you son of a bitch. It only counts as one.
I saw it.
But
oh god.
But I will say this Glenlivet 15 is pretty nice. I did dump a little Pepsi in it because I was still working towards the straight, but I enjoy it. Like I put like a very small amount of Pepsi, so
fair enough.
But I like
mixing Pepsi with Macallan?
It's Diet Pepsi. No, not Macallan. What are you fucking Macallan?
What'd you have?
Glenlivet.
A Glenlivet. Okay, sorry. My bad.
I don't have anything else. What do you want me to do?
Dude, just a little water, man. Don't be a bitch.
Suck my ass.
All right. We spent over a half hour on that topic. Do you guys want to wrap that up? Like, I think we beat a dead horse right now.
Oh, yeah. Like, we beat it. And I don't like, I feel like us debating pointlessly against topics that are mostly theoretical agreed upon and theoretical to us are just pointless because none of us are going to be the asshole who's like, well, I'm just going to wear this shirt anyway. So, yeah.
Yes. See,
I'm trying, Matt. All right. I'm still working up to it. Straight.
Bernie's drinking Stella Rose. What's everybody else drinking out there? Would love to hear. Matt wants us to try some Lagavulin. I always suck at saying it. I got the 8 year back here. Tony, did we try that one? I can't remember. Was that a different one? We tried one of them.
Which one did we try? We tried.
Did we try was it the 12? I can't remember.
Yes, I think it was. At a Lagavulin, I think it was 12.
Something like it. It's either a 10 or a 12. Some of them like change their years up. Like it's weird how different ones do different years. But I haven't.
Am I blurry?
That out yet. A little bit. You might just need to refresh your page, and
I'll hit my refresh.
Sounds good. I'll add Tony back in here in a minute. So yeah. Don't be a cunt if you know. Yes, dropping the good old C word already tonight. Hey, you look much better. I gotta rearrange you on the screen.
I was like, why'd you kick me out? Like,
no, I had to rearrange you because Kevin looks the wrong direction every time. So.
Oh my god!
Just because my camera, it doesn't work. Sorry.
Tony's got kiddos coming in there.
Punch him in the face.
No, let's not. He's
got
to give goodnight hugs. We won't do that. So while Tony's doing the goodnight hugs, I'm gonna wrap up. Like, if you're seeing that craziness and that weird shit locally of people getting kicked out because of where they work because they got a logo on your shirt, you should be a little pissed off and a little outraged. And I recommend reaching out to that store. Don't like go crazy. You don't have to like freak out on social media. A lot of people just tend to like want to go that route. Call that store and been like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like this can't be right. And if the store is an asshole about it, turn them into their corporate office and be like, hey, I didn't know my little town became Nazi Germany. Like, we don't need to act like this. We can be civilized. Like, is this an actual policy or not? I worry. You see, hopefully most of us are smart enough to not spend our time on Twitter. I check it out once or twice a day just to see what all the fucking panic is. I see what's trending and go, yep, stupid. None of it generates conversation. All of it is clickbait, hate mongering bullshit. So, I don't know. That's the end of my rant there, I guess. Yeah. Cameron, what advice do you have for the folks?
Well, the biggest thing is don't fall victim to that, the clickbait nature. Like, actually either read the article and vet it yourself and compare it to other sources or whatever to understand that not everybody is accurate just because they're a news organization.
Kevin, did you just tell people to read the story?
Yeah, I sure did. They're not gonna, but I wish they would.
How dare you?
I just set you up, sorry.
Okay.
It's just
man, that's good.
It's just such a fucking skewed thing to see. Bernie makes this drink, by the way, but it's such a skewed thing to see.
Oh, you ass.
When people just refuse to actually inform themselves or become knowledgeable on anything, they just take everything at that face or surface value and run with it.
Sure, sure.
If everyone did that, the world would be pure chaos. If everyone fell victim to tabloid journalism, was oh, the news said this, and then there's one sensible guy out of 100 million that's what the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Yeah. Tony, any advice to add or?
Yeah. I understand it's not ideal to demand that somebody do something as arbitrary as change their shirt. I get that that's infringing upon personal rights. It's not a big fucking deal. Personally, for me, I mean, for some people, sure. I'm sure it is, especially somebody that works there. I'm sure they would take offense, especially if they're clean. But again, this isn't. We all need to look out for ourselves first and foremost, and our families first and foremost, because that's what the whole quarantine situation is about. But if you go out in the world, and you have to go out in the world, you absolutely have to. You can't just live in a bubble. It doesn't work that way. We're not designed that way. You have to go out in the world, even if it's one person at a time. And if you do, you've got to understand that the world is a scary place, and they're also scared of just you. The world as a whole is scared of just you in the right circumstance.
Well, because
you've gotta do something. It's a give and take. It's a give and take. Everybody, that again, I'll say the stupid cliche thing. We're all in this together in one way.
No, we're not.
But again, watch out for yourself. but everybody's in this same type of situation, whether their situation's more serious. So I guess that's my way around it out. And I will say, we tried the 6 scotches that you're referring to. Again, if anybody wants to check that out on the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, Chicken, Phil, and myself did a line of 6, the Dalmore 12, Cragganmore 12, Cal Isla 12, Glenellish 14, Talisker 10, and Lagavulin 16.
Ah, it was the 16. All right.
It was.
Tiffany, you just tickled me right there. That is exactly.
So,
you get 5 paragraphs in most news articles. The first 2 are conjecture, bullshit, and fake news. And the last 3 actually have some facts in there. Nobody gets to paragraph 3, unfortunately.
yeah. So what I will say before I touch on Tiffany's comment to Tony is that people are scared of you or the individual because whether said individual knows it or not, they have far more power than they understand. Because one person can change like the entire outlook of a state, a country, like the world. Like, it happens. Exactly. Like, take as much as we all hate her, Greta Thunberg, where she got angry and yelled. How dare you? Thank you. She got angry and yelled, and all of a sudden, like, the entire United States was like, "Oh, we need to be more concerned about climate change." Like, no fucking shit, we need to be concerned about climate change, you dumb fucks. But it took a little 14-year-old girl telling you this and yelling at you to make you feel bad about it. Like, it's just like, but people just need to understand that they can impact negatively and positively, and a lot more people need to work on the positive side of that instead of just harassing everybody else around them to make it negative. But
sure.
Tiffany,
real quick before we bring Phil in, what was your response to Tiffany's comment there about the fake news?
So I feel like she was either responding to you and I or just pointing out the obvious. But yeah, like, people, if they read past the title of an article, everyone would be informed and life would be easier, but that's not going to happen. Everyone's going to be like, "Oh, well, I saw this bold text, so I'm going to believe that."
Yeah. And no, that's fair. Let's welcome to the show the man, the myth, the legend, the Phil, King of Extreme himself. Welcome.
Welcome, one and all. It is I, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man who makes the other podcast cower. Your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, come to grant a little bit of extremeness to the Dog and Chicken Show here, folks. I am honored. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Kevin.
There. Now I set it up so Kevin doesn't have to move.
Excellent.
Hey, Phil. All I have to say is,
but folks, as your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, I am glad to be here. And this evening, I'm going to be drinking something a little special. Tony, don't mean to bring about some of your envy, but got the Dalmore Portwood Reserve. This took some special steps to get my hands on. Had to go deep within the spy network of the KOE Nation in order to acquire this. My high-level assassins had to scour the world. Finally was able to acquire a bottle of the Dalmore Portwood Reserve. It was so. I am thoroughly looking forward to this one. And T, I imagine we will have to do a proper review of this at some point.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. But are we ready to dive into the topic? As he gets his drink ready.
Hold on. Without doxing, Phil. Without doxing, let's talk about the local cases for anybody who's in the Geneva, Nebraska community or nearby there. Let's keep it brief because there's some people not there that probably really don't care. But there's 2 cases in the county now. And one in Geneva, one in Exeter. The one from Exeter, the rumor is he's got a hefty fine, up to $15,000. Don't know. It's a rumor. It's speculation. Don't want to.
Yeah, I've heard that his fine was $15,000. Now this guy was being very flippant about it because he was, like it was stated earlier, he was going places, not really caring about the health of others. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, good. Fuck him. That's my perspective. If he's going to go around and be that flippant about everybody else's health, that is putting other people in danger. That is a violation of the non-aggression principle. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, this was justified. He was putting other people at risk needlessly for his own amusement. So fuck him. Good. I don't think 15,000 was high enough.
Well, I mean,
that's the one time in contrast to our prior conversation. If I know for sure who somebody is who's infected and they walk into my place of business, then yeah, I'm gonna kick them out, and I'm justified in doing that. Not because there's a label on your shirt, it's because I know your fucking name, and like you were plastered all over the news and social media. Like, hey, like especially the news. I guess I don't want to follow social media so much on that assumption, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, to me, I think it's just. I know there's been some disagreements between you guys. You guys are about ready to move on to the topic. But again, this is another point that we find ourselves at this intersection of the philosophies of Benjamin Franklin and the philosophies of Abraham Lincoln. Because we have Tony here, who's kind of being the stalwart for the Abraham Lincoln philosophy of the Constitution is not a suicide pact. And then we have Chicken over here that's being the stalwart for the Benjamin Franklin idea of those who would trade essential freedoms for security deserve neither and will end up with none. And so this has been the essential debate of American history for over 220 years. And it's why I keep saying that these times will be uniquely scrutinized by future generations, because this was a point where our rights and our security seem to be hitting head to head, and we're going to see which one wins out.
Yeah, I think the way I framed it, I told my wife the other day, I was just like, be happy you live where you live. It's like, it could be fucking way crazier in some of these places. So
just imagine like a small country like Italy or any of the European countries that where people might not realize it are extremely small compared to the United States. So just imagine that like close population, like density, and everyone being being even more restricted in their movements. Because if you look at London, like as much or like any like UK city, the buildings are so close, like 24/7. Like neighbor like distance isn't really a thing in Europe. Like houses are touching almost constantly.
Right.
And so like just imagine like they say you can't be near your neighbors, you have to practice social distancing, and your neighbor's wall is touching yours.
Yeah.
Like just imagine living in that kind of like environment.
I do apologize. I just needed to make sure that the KOE Nation and the whole audience get the clearest, most precise picture of Phil KOE they can possibly get. So I had to. But before we get into all that sadness,
your audio's good, Phil. Your audio's good. That's all that matters.
Marvelous. But before we get into any of that, let's get into a little bit of happy. Let me give y'all my impressions of this Belmore Portwood Reserve here for just a moment. Just cherries on the nose. Just immediately your nose is hit with cherries and a bit of grape and just overwhelming fruit. And I'm going to not even waste more time on the nose. My God.
Okay. So it sounds like we're going to wrap up the news and politics of the day. And we're going to get into tonight's real topic, which is the Benoit conspiracy.
Which is chocolatey fruitiness. Amazing.
Oh, yeah. I forget. I got to wait until Phil's completely done with it.
I was about to say. Come on now. My God. But all right. As
we're getting ready to set up for it, so make sure, once again, as we're in the middle of the show, need to do the reminders. Make sure you oh shit, we lost Tony there for a second. Hopefully he jumps back in. I'll have to rearrange everybody on the screen again. Jesus Christ.
No.
Oh no. Okay, so now I gotta remove Phil and then Kevin and then replace Phil and then Kevin. There we go. Now we're back to normal. that was
All
fun.
right.
Hey, I got this figured out. It's a lot quicker when we have
It's like
snafus now.
you've done this before.
A couple times.
So
Make sure you go back, check out our prior shows. Is not only do we talk a lot about politics, but if you look back at our prior shows, we talk a lot of social issues. We talk a lot of sports. We talk wrestling. You name it. We dive into about anything that's probably interesting. So check us out, Big Buck, and you can also see us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or podcasts on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, all the major ones. We're on all those. So check out Dog and Chicken Show on anywhere where you get your podcasts and see prior episodes. We're going to upload the entire series of the COVID Chronicles. Since this all started, we've been logging twice a week our lives and what we've seen and the news and all the bullshit that's come along with it. So come back and join us from the beginning and check all those out. But yeah, let's get into tonight's topic, the Benoit conspiracy. And I think no better way to start this off, and fellas, I'll ask you to mute yourselves for this. Phil, I will mute you because I like to. And we will go to the day after the murders, and then we'll get into it. But here is probably one of the hardest to find videos in all of pro wrestling entertainment today. So obviously, that did not age well. And
No, within
had a few
24
issues.
hours.
Phil, I'll unmute you. You don't have to worry about going over.
That was yeah. Honestly,
We're not going to go
I've
3
seen
hours
that
on
in
this.
a while.
Folks. Yes.
I saw
I
that
haven't seen that in
live.
a while.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that live as it aired,
Me too.
and
Yep.
I was in the tractor the next day as 11:10. Excuse me.
Oh, he's got it. He's
Excuse
got
me.
it. Rope him up.
Goddamn COVID.
11:10 KFAB was playing a Fox News bulletin, and it was talking about, we have breaking news on the Chris Benoit case. And I was out in the tractor, out in the middle of one of my great-grandfather's fields, beautiful trees, beautiful sunny day. I still remember it. And Shepard Smith was constantly breaking more and more news. And as the afternoon went on, it got harder and harder and harder to listen to the news. And every time, at first you're thinking, okay, maybe it was a gas leak. And then it became very apparent that it wasn't. And Tony and I have been watching wrestling our entire lives, almost entirely.
Yeah, I ain't kidding you. I got a goosebumps watching Vince's clip there. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah,
back
yeah, me
there.
too. It's like, because I remember, like, the thing that was really complicated for me and what was really tough for me was Benoit. Before this, was one of my favorite wrestlers. I mean, he had such an intensity in the ring that he made you believe. And that was when that happened, when we found out that Benoit, his wife Nancy, and his son Daniel did not die from such circumstances. Would you read that comment? I can't see it.
Ronnie's saying how he was in shock when he couldn't believe he was gone. He said he was the greatest wrestler ever.
Quite possibly, but
not ever. He just said great wrestler. Sorry.
Here's
Don't
one of
take
the
it.
One of.
problems. Like, he was one of my favorites of all time. Since this happened, I have not been able to watch a full Chris Benoit match. I have not been able to sit down and watch an actual match of his since it was, God, I've been dancing around it, but just go ahead and out and say it. Double murder suicide of his own family. After that, I was never able, before that, I was always able to separate the artist from the art. But that was kind of the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I just, no. Like, I know people that still listen to Michael Jackson despite all the things he was accused of doing.
Sure.
But there's not police, like, this is 100%, like, almost entirely proven. And that's the difference for me. And for me, this, like, I remember the night when they aired the tribute, going back and looking back on it now, William Regal's interview was the most telling because he lived in the area. He was neighbors with Chris Benoit, and he knew there was problems. And when you go back and watch his interview, all I'm willing to say right now is Chris Benoit was one of the most incredible professional wrestlers that ever lived. He would not say anything about how good of a person he was, how much of anything of that. He
Kept it
just said
professional.
Chris Benoit is a very good wrestler. And when you kind of like, I mean, Tony, you're like, if you ever played poker, you kind of learn to read people. And that was one of those that when you watch it back, like, oh, fuck, this guy had suspicions before anybody else. But yeah,
well, and we're going to get into a lot of that. And
go ahead.
Let's just touch on this right now, because when that aired, when Vince came out and said that live at the top of the show, they were working off of the little facts that were public knowledge, and all they supposedly knew was Chris Benoit and his family had passed away, and they were going to pay homage to him. They didn't supposedly have the details. Yet that's part of the conspiracy that we're going to discuss here later. More people knew more than they maybe let on. And it's hard to say who knew what, how much each person individually knew. And yeah, it didn't age well, because the very next night, 24 hours later, I believe was a SmackDown, maybe a taping or a live. I don't remember which, but
was it ECW? Was Tuesday nights?
Yes, it was an ECW.
Yep.
Man stated, we will never mention Benoit ever again.
Yeah, Vince just flat out says, "Well, this last night I came out and said this about Chris Benoit. This is the last time I'll ever mention his name again." And now, 13 years later, if you get on the WWE Network, you can still watch Chris Benoit matches. You cannot search his name. You have to know what match he was involved with to watch a Chris Benoit match. You just happen across it. You can't search for him. He does not exist as far as a name goes. He has been eradicated. I'm surprised, honestly, if he wasn't so integral for so long, they would have deleted all his content. They would have just wiped it clean, and he wouldn't exist.
But it's kind of like Hulk Hogan, when they kind of unpersoned Hulk Hogan for like 5 years.
That happened.
He did get unpersoned in WWE for a while, but he was so integral they couldn't like erase him from the championship lineages. But again, Hulk Hogan isn't even in the same universe as to what we're talking about here. So
no. Should I just go down what happened on the record?
Well, real quick, I think you guys made a good correlation there. So for anybody who's watching that doesn't know who Chris Benoit is, so obviously it's a pro wrestler we're talking about, but in the quick gist before we go into kind of his quick bio, Tony will give us kind of the lowdown on that. I liked how Phil portrayed that. It's like still listening to Michael Jackson, even though it like whatever, you can say allegedly all you want with some of this stuff, but I think everybody's in agreement that Michael Jackson was probably a little creepy and probably did some bad shit. But doesn't mean he wasn't good at producing music and he wasn't a great artist. Like, it's one of those things. Like I personally, I think Michael Jackson was a predator. But like I still put on Thriller and several different songs. And I my kid loves music. I'm a music lover, and like I want him to understand these songs and know what was a big part of the past. That's important culturally. Now in the wrestling community, I think it's a comparative at a certain extent of Chris Benoit's legacy. He was almost 20 years before this happened that he held several titles in several organizations. He was a big deal. He was a big deal all around. And back when, today I'm trying to get back into it. I'm more of a casual, but I'm trying to get back into it more. I better if I want to hold on to this goddamn thing back here. But cheers to that, fellas. They're both smirking. They're like, oh, we got a plot. I'm gonna open up goddamn impeachment on your asses if you take it from me. But anyway, like I was saying, that's the comparison that you can make of how great he was. And I remember when he died and all this shit happened, I was in my early 20s and I was still like, I wasn't huge into wrestling. I was starting to fade out. I was starting to get more into UFC and kind of started transitioning that way. But I still watch Monday Night Raw every week. And when that episode aired, I was like, holy fuck. I remember I was with my wife. We were living together and I was glued to the TV. I would not leave the TV. I'm like, there's no fucking way. What happened?
Well, this was one of those events that kind of led to people straying away from wrestling. Like Phil, for example, like even maybe it probably led to you not being as interested because it was one of those. This event is too real. It hits too close to home. It just kind of sours you on the overall product itself. But yeah, like you said, there is a correlation, and like even if you want to go back to the Renaissance age, some of those painters of the great paintings are supposed to have done some bad shit. But you can separate art from the artist. This is one of those cases that it's really, really damn hard to separate the art from the artist, because if you're looking at the art, it's hard. It's damn near impossible to get lost in the magic of it and allow yourself to appreciate the art. That's what Phil's talking about. It's hard to sit down and watch a Chris Benoit match because the whole time you're thinking, man, this is a really great match, but I know what happened. So and we're gonna get into that, Ronnie. It is fucking twisted.
And like what you talked about, Tony. Tony, in your opinion, other than yourself, in your whole life, have you ever known somebody that liked wrestling about as much as I did? Okay, did you ever know anybody that was as big into wrestling as I, other than yourself?
Yeah, about you and me, that was about it.
And after this Benoit thing happened, it really kicked the will out of me to even watch wrestling for a very long time. And it's like you and I we've been toying around about how to do this video about our personal journeys in pro wrestling. And part of that for me was when the Benoit thing happened, I quit watching altogether, and I actually got involved in mixed martial arts. I just completely moved that into a different segment of my life. And it literally wasn't until Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, one last time, was the thing that actually pulled me back into wrestling at all. If it wasn't for that match, I would have never started watching again whatsoever. So it took an incredible attraction to pull me back. But yes, for years, and I don't know when the Benoit, the year he died, wasn't it like, oh goodness, it was 2007, and that event was in 2015 that I just mentioned. So that's a long stretch where I washed my hands of it. I couldn't watch it anymore. And it was a lot to do with the fact that Chris Benoit was one of my favorites. And not to personalize it, but as a fan, I felt betrayed, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, because like for us, like Chris Benoit was one of those guys that pretty much succeeded everywhere he went. And I'll just run it down. He started, he did a lot of stuff in Japan. He was in ECW, he was in WCW. He eventually got to the WWE. And when Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero both retained and won world championships at WrestleMania 20, and the final image of the night of WrestleMania 20 years of WrestleMania, was Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit in an embraced hug in the middle of the ring, confetti in the crowd of 80,000 people, losing their minds because they just resonated with these two performers so much. The trials and tribulations and the hard work and the dedication that these two guys had put in, and their friendship over those many years, to see that all on stage was one of those WrestleMania moments that were so incredible to witness live. And it's one of those images that never leaves you when you see it. So then something like this happened.
Less than a year later, they were both dead after that.
I understand what you mean about being betrayed, because you put in that time to follow these guys, and then you find out not only are they human, but they're more human and less human than a lot of other people. I'll just run down quick again what happened.
Let's get into what happened. And let's first off, we know he's a wrestler, very popular wrestler. So what's the basic history of Chris Benoit?
I'll do what I can quick on the history, throw in any things I miss, but he really got his big start in WCW, and he met his wife Nancy in WCW. She was with a wrestler by the name of Kevin Sullivan at the time, and he was kind of the booker at the time. He was doing storylines, and he booked himself against Chris Benoit. And it wasn't necessarily what led to Nancy leaving Kevin Sullivan for Chris Benoit, but because they were already kind of on the rocks anyway, depending on whose story you want to believe. But eventually, she leaves Kevin Sullivan for Chris.
The joke.
She kind of steps.
Oh, may I interject?
Go ahead.
The joke in the industry was that Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce. That was he booked this. My wife is leaving me for Chris fake angle, and then it grew into reality. Art imitated reality. Yeah. So that was. But continue.
Yeah. Essentially, she ended up. She was a manager, a valet, if you will, for many, many years alongside Kevin Sullivan. And then once she got with Chris, she kind of stepped away from the business and she just decided to be a mom. Behind the scenes, she was off the storyline. And eventually, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, they made their way to the WWF at the time because they weren't being utilized. They were undersized guys. They were smaller than your main event players, who were typically big muscle-bound guys, tall muscle-bound guys, mind you. So when they hit the WWE, they were well-known commodities. They got over immediately, and eventually it became clear immediately that Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero were going to be the cream of the crop of this group of WCW guys coming over. And their popularity grew and grew and grew. So they started getting pushed more and more and more. So over the years, they did what most guys do, and they started using the enhancements to try to get bigger. Because if you're going to fill that role, if you're going to be the main event guy, if you're going to be the world champion, you got to look the part, right? Well, they started using the stuff, started using the juice.
Allegedly.
And they got, well, you look at them. They were beasts. At that WrestleMania 20 moment I talked about, allegedly. They were beasts.
In Benoit's case, it was in his bloodstream, but in Eddie's case, Tony, it was allegedly.
So Benoit actually didn't have steroids in his bloodstream; he had testosterone.
His testosterone was 4 to 10 times higher than the average human beings during his autopsy.
And those were the early days of HGH. And
yeah. So his testosterone was through the roof. It was it was quite the cocktail of reasonings. But
that was just the first ingredient. Yeah, that's just the first ingredient. All the extra stuff that you're putting into your body. Then during this time frame, wrestling had kind of hit a different plateau. We started seeing the introduction of much more hardcore theatrics, and a lot of this is coming from the chair shots to the head. Were a bit of it wasn't a taboo thing at the time. Everybody was eating a chair shot to the head. And people were diving off of tall shit. Like
that was when the chair shots got fucking harsh.
They got nasty, unprotected.
2001 to 2005, when Chris Benoit was really getting big, the idea of not taking a chair shot to the head seemed ridiculous. Like
you didn't. That was your entry card to get to a big show. Like you gotta take a shot.
Yep. Everyone and. Yeah, I bet every single wrestler that had to take that's got some form of brain damage. And it got worse and worse and worse. If you go back, really, the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels first Hell in a Cell match, Undertaker's just good swing and perfect square crack is still, in my opinion, the greatest chair shot in all wrestling because he got.
I'll say the close second.
What's that?
I'll give you a close second. And the close second is The Rock to Ken Shamrock on his knees doing this. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It was pretty good, but we'll have to have that debate for another day.
Anyway,
so we learned about who Chris is, right?
Yeah.
Chris Benoit, we know about him. Phil?
And we'll just culminate it again. WrestleMania 20, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit hugging in the middle of the ring.
Ouch.
Yeah.
What was your
Go ahead, Phil.
Chicken.
No, I was just gonna say, Phil, I'm gonna have you kind of go through the official story, of the double murder homicide.
God,
how did that go?
Before we get to that, we have to touch on after that moment. at WrestleMania 20, Eddie Guerrero passes away.
Yes.
And again, I mentioned Eddie Guerrero so
It is
much because
important. Yeah.
it's very important. These guys were like brothers. They were
Probably
strong.
the most
Their
important.
connection. Yeah, it was a ridiculous friendship that they had. You know, they were close as close can be. And when Eddie Guerrero passed away, that changed Chris Benoit on an emotional level. Mind you, he's already being changed on a physical level. Like his body's going through changes that the human body's not supposed to go through. Then Eddie Guerrero passes away. And he's impacted for the rest of his life on an emotional level. So there's two major blows. Then I mentioned the chair shots because his signature move is the diving headbutts. He's taking all this trauma to the head over these years. So emotionally, physically, mentally, he's being changed into somebody he's not even recognizable to himself in a lot of cases. And the flags started coming up. He's talking to people about, hey, like Chris Nowinski, who's big into the CTE. He's like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about that. But then the next time you talk to him, he's not even the same guy. So the changes are there. Bad stuff's happened. He's been changed forever. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and get into what happened.
Well, as you said, Tony, when Benoit, when Eddie died, which is a way bigger part of the story than I think any of us truly appreciate, because there was the points where, and even you were telling me your wife was kind of shocked, like, why was Benoit so much more torn up about Eddie Guerrero's passing than even Eddie's own wife at times? Like, this was a deep friendship that probably goes deeper than a lot. And I've noticed that there's elements to it that when you listen back to some of the interviews, like Jim Ross talking about his dark side of the ring, like and like Chris Jericho and all these other guys, they're holding back something. There's another fold to this story but I got a feeling of respect for Eddie's kids and all that. They're just keeping it to themselves. But it's just when he passed, something inside Chris died, because Chris was not a religious man, and Eddie basically led him to religion. And so if that's the case, anybody like that is going to be so central to your life. And then, as you said, Tony, he used the flying headbutt as a finishing move. Now, for people that don't know, it's the move where you literally jump off the top rope and land with your flat body and your head onto the opponent, so it looks like you've given a devastating head move to your opponent. The problem is the guy who invented this move, Harley Race, said it destroyed his spine. It's the reason that he couldn't wrestle. And this is an example of the flying headbutt. God, he was so good at that. Yeah, you can see how that could cause some severe brain damage. Also, the Dynamite Kid, who was somebody that Chris Benoit idolized, was put in a wheelchair over doing this move, and yet Chris Benoit did this move again and again and again to get noticed. And this is the part that I hate when I was watching this and hearing about all this. When I was a kid watching WCW, getting into it and seeing my first Chris Benoit matches, it was the flying headbutt that got me to notice him. That was how I noticed him at first, and that was like the horrible, like, my God. That was my own personal my God moment in that. And so, yes, you've got that. And then, as you said, Tony, the CTE that comes with the brain damage, the spinal damage. So his cerebral spinal fluid's probably not proper. And then you have the wrinkle of a relationship that's going sour and going south quick. And all of that together, all of that combined, Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, if you've never read him, I do recommend. He says, within every human being, within every one of us, within you, within me, within all of us, we have the capacity to be an angel or a demon. It's within every single person. And that night where Chris Benoit committed a double murder suicide, that was the moment when the demon came out in him. And that was what happened that evening. We'll never truly know, but according to police reports and according to autopsies, Nancy Benoit was murdered with a power cord to a lamp and then wrapped in a sheet, and a Bible was placed next to her. And then Chris he gave his own son which interestingly enough, the documentary never touched on the fact that Daniel was special needs, which I found so interesting because Daniel was severely mentally, like, I'm not going to say severely because I'm not his doctor, I didn't diagnose, but from everything I've heard, he did have developmental issues. And so it's just like this person. So I hope you understand, folks watching, why we feel so betrayed, because this is somebody that we watched for years and noticed for years, and you fucking do this kind of shit, man. What the fuck? We were all fans, and then then Chris Benoit does the one thing he should have just started his night on. Went to his Nordic track or whatever it was, set the thing as a noose, and hung himself. And that's
but this happened over the period of like 36 hours. His wife Nancy was first, and then the son was, I want to say, at least 12 hours later. So it wasn't like you can't call it a crime of passion. You can't call it a spur of the moment thing, because once he'd done that, then he kept going, and he was basically the dealings of a madman at this point. Sure, he could have been maybe inebriated when he killed Nancy, but he had to plan it out,
so I'm pretty wrestling dumb and everything, and I read up on this for the sole purpose of this podcast to like educate myself on what happened. The police reports say that besides like the basic like alcohol from like the body contents fermenting or whatever, and like after death, that Nancy didn't really show anything, and there wasn't really any signs of a struggle besides blood under her head when they found her. But they said that his son was drugged with Xanax before he was killed in order to either just keep him unconscious or whatever Chris's intentions were.
Yeah, I was aware of this. It's just one of those things that, like, it's so awful that you just don't.
It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I was getting there, but I was also hesitant. So, but yes, you're absolutely right. He did that and applied an apparent chokehold on Daniel to cut off the oxygen supply to the brain, and that's how. And then he placed a Bible next to him. And God, yeah, this is just awful. And what I was, again, where the mind cannot understand the reasoning for an event, it will invent a conspiracy theory.
Sure.
And everybody's trying to think, is there some way? Did Benoit owe money to the Russian mafia? Is there some way? And the one that really cinched it for me was when I listened to Chavo Guerrero Jr.'s account of the phone call. And that's when he was talking about Benoit called him and like, Eddie, my family's sick. They can't do anything. I'm not going to be able to make this booking. Can you cover for me? Yeah, Chris, I could do that. Chavo, I love you. And then he just hangs up. And in that moment, I knew. There was no way. There's no other explanation. I knew. He did it.
Oh, yeah. And also with like the lack of, or the loss of trust, like just imagine being someone's significant other, child, and they come to basically kill you. Like that level of shit.
Yeah, that had to do with the drugging. So I think that's a big reason he drugged him.
So let alone like his wife. Like I get, like I don't get, like it's not acceptable, but like it's proven throughout time that men, if their wives are doing something wrong or they feel they've been wronged, will kill their wives and take that out on them. But to
So there was a history of abuse in the marriage.
From
Like,
on Chris's side or vice versa? Like, I'm guessing Chris.
I think most of it was Chris, but I think there was a little bit back and forth there. Like I don't think either party was mutually. I don't think anybody was innocent.
There
on that
was an arrest record for Nancy Benoit back when she was Nancy Sullivan. She actually did stab Kevin Sullivan once in a domestic dispute.
Jesus.
Kevin paid for.
We'll get into that guy.
We'll get there. But he paid for the bail, and then after that, they never really saw each other again. After that, So,
but I will touch though. Like Kevin was saying, like somebody that close to you have something happen like this. Like I think that was after the gravity of the first murder of murdering Nancy started to weigh on him, and maybe he kind of came out of what he had done. He decided that there was no turning back for him, and he had to do whatever in his twisted head at that point was that he felt was right. And he drugs his son to alleviate the trauma of the situation.
I feel
and
like,
then, of course, eventually did it to himself, knowing, okay, now I'm going to take myself out. But in that moment, you're like, why couldn't he have just done that to himself in the first place? Because they say this on the Dark Side of the Ring documentary, and I'm going to say, if anybody hadn't seen that, you need to watch the Dark Side of the Ring.
Amazing
Benoit
documentary.
episode.
Like,
it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch and sit through, but
way better
they
justice
say
than we
Chris,
can give it. But
yeah, absolutely. But they say Chris only cared about his legacy.
so
Yet,
but that's not what everybody else
boy,
says.
how did he go about doing that? Wow.
He completely ruined his legacy. So he wasn't in the right mind frame, because that's the only thing he ever cared about was his legacy. Because he was more dedicated than most people in the business will ever be to his craft, more committed to his job than most people would ever be. And he completely ruined his legacy. Had he just killed himself, he would have been in the Hall of Fame the next year. Had he just killed himself, his family would have been taken care of by the business. Had he just killed himself, we wouldn't be doing this. Yeah, he completely screwed up his legacy doing this.
Yeah.
Kevin,
so he wasn't in the right frame.
what it sounds like, just based off of how you guys describe him as a wrestler or a person before all of this, obviously, and then kind of how the situation played out with either steroids and everything, like affecting his mind and traumatic brain injuries, like everything that like could possibly affect his mental state, just kind of shows that he killed his wife in either like a heat of the moment thing, like she did something that finally like just snapped, and when it happened, it either progressed and he's like, well, I killed that person, now I just have to kill my son who's here because that's just how this works. Or he was like, just whatever might have happened to Chris Benoit during the time, because none of us know exactly mentally what was going on, what could have influenced the man. But clearly, like Tony said, after it was over a period of 12 hours, because in the police report that I saw, it said that his son had barely started to show signs of decomposition while his wife was in later stages of decomposition of a murder. And it's just clearly it wasn't like back to back, like, oh, killed him, killed her, got to kill my son, it's done, now I kill myself. It was killed my wife, what have I'm guessing there was an extreme moment of self-reflection and decided to alleviate his suffering and make it feel like his son wasn't going to suffer, and drugged him to make himself feel better or whatever it might have been. And then I think the police report also said that they found searches on his computer of quickest way to break your neck. And he used his lat pull down machine to like max weight, set it around his neck, and then let it pull up and snap it, like break his neck and hang him. Yeah. So clearly, like, he put thought into the later stages, but I feel like the heat of the moment came with his wife, whether something happened with them, and it was alcohol, steroid-induced rage, whatever it might have been. But he snapped mentally after he killed his wife, is what the whole situation shows.
Yeah, I think it was a domino effect, and like spoiler alert, like this is my feelings on it, but yeah, I think that was a heat of the moment thing. Whether I don't think it was from alcohol, I don't think it was roid rage. I think it was just a lapse of fully mentally being present in the situation, and he basically lost control of what happened because of the CTE, because of the massive depression, because of everything that had gone. It was domino effect. It was the perfect storm in the most possible worst moment. He became the demon, as Phil alluded to earlier, and he had no control over it. And that's not to justify it by any means, because it's fucking horrible. And like Phil said, you can't watch a match, but it was a perfect storm in the worst possible moment, and it happened. Well, so, and then after that, he did what in his twisted head he thought he needed to do to deal with the situation.
So I feel like a good explanation to that is there's been serial killers who have children and have never harmed their child in their entire life. And then you have Chris Benoit, who in a break of the, like, clearly it was like a real mental just snapping. Like, anyone who's willing to harm their child is an insane, like, that just baffles me.
It's disgusting. And there's a lot of disgusting things about the story, but I think one of the hidden disgusting things on here that I don't know, and maybe I'm just a softie for fucking certain things, but I was really disgusted in the fact that one kind of annoys me a little bit, because
she was,
she was huge. She was the last superstar, like she was the last manager female that was there to they tried gimmicks like that before, but like she was the last great.
She almost made it into the Four Horsemen as a manager.
You didn't really grow up watching WCW like I did, and so I remember Woman, and I just always thought it was kind of funny. That was her name, Woman. Like, it was just so funny.
You knew who she was.
Yeah. She cut a hell of a promo. And, I mean, let's be frank. She had one hell of a head of 1980s hair. Like, that was just 1987 incarnate. But yeah, I actually do remember Woman from back in the day, and like, I do actually agree with the idea that not as Nancy Benoit, not as Nancy Sullivan, not as Nancy anything, but Woman going into the Hall of Fame. I totally agree with that. But that was in fact, she just walked all the way from that to be the housewife and house mom for Daniel. And it was like,
and didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
So I guess we start the conspiracies.
Let's talk it. Let's do it.
Well, first of all, before we get into the conspiracies, there's one particular character in all of this. Not even a character. One pretty important person we haven't mentioned and we've been dancing around, and that's David Benoit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit's son. You guys saw his interview, right? On Dark Side of the Ring.
I know Tony and I have. I sent it to Kevin. I don't think Kevin got to watch it.
No, I wasn't able to get to it today.
I will say, even if you don't know what's going on, it's going to be one of the roughest watches that you're going to sit through. It's a rough time, and it's fuck. Like, you can't help but feel for the kid. Like, his interview and Vicky Guerrero's interview were 2 times I had to stop it, get up, and walk away in the room for a minute because it was getting too emotionally heavy. And
I had the benefit of watching this with 3 kids in the house, and it's a long watch. It's a 2-parter, and like I'd heard before, I watched it. Like, you're gonna have to get up and you're gonna have to walk away. Luckily, I had distractions in the form of my kids. Otherwise, I'd have to pause this and I'd have to come back to it because it's heavy. You're watching David Benoit, who is a spitting image of his father, talk about his dad like he's still like his hero, and he's like, regardless of everything that happened, it's rough to watch. It is so hard to watch, so hard.
Chicken, your thoughts?
I'm trying to find a comparison photo here.
Because they are a spitting image, but that was. That's Chris Benoit and David Benoit. Like, that's a spitting image, and that kid has such a fucking hard road to climb, and just watching it is just there's tragic, but there's also what I liked about it is there's a redemption arc in it, but it's for David Benoit. That's what I liked about Dark Side of the Ring is the redemption arc is for David and the recovery of his life and him moving forward. That's what I found the most profitable and the nicest thing that I liked about the Dark Side of the Ring documentary. I just wanted to get that in before we start shifting gears. But anywho, so Tony,
Sure. Yeah.
conspiracy us up.
Oh God. Well, obviously the biggest one I think we got to touch on, before we get into any, the biggest one is the Kevin Sullivan conspiracy theory, and this is the conspiracy theory that Kevin Sullivan actually framed Chris Benoit of the double murder suicide.
So hold on,
and did this somehow.
Let's back it up. Kevin Sullivan is Chris Benoit's wife's first husband, and was also a pro wrestler. He was actually ended up in the WCW, I believe, as like a promoter and scheduler, and was like one of the higher ups in WCW at one point. They had this partnership, but then they were like, hey, like, let's make this gimmick of we want Chris Benoit to have an affair with your wife. And it started as almost like a gimmick and a thing to just like get people riled up and get people all excited. And it worked. And it worked so well that it actually happened. So the reason Sullivan became such a focus on this was because it was highly publicized. It was highly talked about in, this is early days of the internet. Blogs and chat rooms are just starting to be a big thing. You have international people following Chris Benoit. Again, he was in Japan, Canada, U.S., Mexico. He had fought or wrestled all over the world. So he was a world-renowned artist in this sport. So everybody knew who Chris Benoit was if they knew what wrestling was. So then he starts having this like fake affair in the show, but then it became real. She leaves Sullivan, as Phil alluded to. She actually stabbed him. They get divorced. Sullivan says, "I will kill you, Chris Benoit." Threatens Chris Benoit at a certain
allegedly.
Point. Allegedly.
That That was actually Kevin Sullivan's best friend that said that to Chris. If you did to me what you did to Kevin, I'd cut your fucking head off, Chris. That was actually Kevin's best friend. Kevin, Jesus, man, like I get the fact that things are like,
you can't tell me he didn't have a grudge.
He never really stood up for himself too much. Fuck, like. That's just what I get from watching interviews for him. He didn't really stand up for himself too much.
The question there is, do you think Kevin Sullivan was part of the murder? So this is the conspiracy we're putting forward, and then we'll kind of talk about our final thoughts on it. So Kevin Sullivan has a motive. And he still had a relationship with Nancy. Not a great one, but there's still a plausible chance that he could have been around. So what happened the night of the murder? So it was Friday. Friday morning, Chris Benoit had a doctor's appointment. He went into the doctor's appointment. He actually made a couple of phone calls to a couple of people and seemed pretty normal on Friday. Nancy was killed supposedly on Friday, and timelines can be a little sketchy when it comes to autopsy reports. So, give or take some hours there. And then shit didn't start getting weird on full calls till Saturday morning. But there's the conspiracy that Chris came home. Kevin had already killed his wife and kind of took shit hostage.
If that was the case, the fact that Chris Benoit had 4 to 10 times the testosterone of an average human being in his body, there would be marks on his body of a greater struggle. So, it's that. And also, Kevin, I believe, had an alibi for that day. I believe there's he was.
Doesn't mean it had to have been Kevin.
West. So
doesn't mean it had to have been Kevin.
Yeah, so to me, I don't really buy the Kevin Sullivan theory for a multitude of reasons. There's also no sign of forced entry. I understand it, but again, this is what I mean when I say when the mind cannot understand a reasoning, it will invent a conspiracy theory.
So that's an easy cop out, but there's more.
Not just
So-
that. Not just
There's
that.
more.
The only thing I'll
Not
say
just
about
the fact that he had that.
Go
What's
ahead,
that, Tim?
Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
so the only thing I'll say about like boosted testosterone, adrenaline could have played a part, but no mark showing would have been if someone had Chris's son and had him hostage. They would have told Chris not to do anything. Because if he was
already dead, there's hours between each death. So
yeah, so if Chris got there and his wife was dead, and the person's like, "Don't fucking do anything, or I'll kill your son too. Just shut up and listen," kind of thing, or do what I tell you, kind of thing. There wouldn't be any marks on anyone.
well, from the hours between after his family's dead and Chris Benoit's to be murdered, allegedly, or under this scenario, he would still have to be bound up in some way that there would still be marks. So that's just, to me, it's really, like, I understand what you're saying. Like, if we're playing devil's advocate here, but I'm just kind of taking a CSI approach to this. And
So that's our boy Kevin Sullivan on the right.
yeah, that's Kevin Sullivan. Boy, I bet he really wished he didn't gimmick up for this interview if he knew where it was going to go.
Okay, let's touch on this quickly. This is Kevin Sullivan, and his gimmick when he was with Nancy, before Nancy, was he was the Dark Prince, who was into Celtic magic and dark pagan ritualistic things, and they'd come out with snakes and swords and shit. People latched on to his gimmick as a way to prove that he somehow manifested some dark power and helped do these murders with some supernatural powers. That's part of people believing in gimmicks way too much, for one. But for what really drives it home for me is the fact that how long was it between when Nancy left Chris, or when she left Kevin to be with Chris, and when the murders happened? We're talking years.
It was that's a fun fact right there. It was exactly 10 years.
Exactly 10 years. So he waited exactly 10 years to do this, to get revenge for all that stuff that happened after she left the business and he left the company and went to another company. He waited 10 years to do this. I don't buy that.
Honestly, this is, as much as I hate to say, like, just what I know about people and how they operate, and past behavior is best predictor of future behavior, and how people with low impulse control can act. If he had this within him to do that kind of murder, if Kevin did, he would have done it when Nancy tried to stab him. Like, if he had that lack of impulse control and he had that kind of inclination, that would have been when it happened. So
I'm glad I'm inside a murderer's mind.
What's that?
I'm just so glad I'm inside a murderer's mind right now.
Oh, ain't it though? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, Kevin Sullivan seems like a guy that doesn't really especially stand up for himself much, and he seems like a pretty passive guy. And so I just, other than his gimmick, the fact that like Tony said, his gimmick was like kind of a read between the lines. Am I a Satan?
It's a convenient gimmick right now for the conspiracy theorists. So, yeah.
But I qualify that one under fake news. So
It's the most popular one.
Yeah, that's the other one that I heard was that he owed money to like the Russian mob or something like that.
Oh, fuck.
There's really no way to verify that one way or the other. And that the guy was making incredibly good money, so I just don't see that really being the case.
The most likely scenario, before we get into the biggest conspiracy, we're an hour 45 into the show already, and I know this last conspiracy is going to take a chunk of time. The biggest, like, and the most probable scenario that most people point to is the CTE. and you know, not so much like everybody blew it up to roid rage at the time. That's all you seen on CNN. I actually rewatched and I remember watching the Larry King. I was there in my early 20s watching Larry King episodes.
Boy, that's a dated sentence.
I'm a fucking dork like that.
There I was watching Larry King on your way
I watched
back.
Larry King again today while I was driving down the fucking road. But anyway, so it was like John Cena, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Chris Jericho get on with Larry King and talk about steroid use and drug use. And all of them are like, no, roid rage, fuck off. Show me proof that thing's real. 2, we have huge testing. That's not a fucking real thing. He was not on steroids. Quit with your fake news. Like, oh my God, CNN was pushing fake news in 2007. Booyah. No.
Well, even Nancy Benoit in texts and emails back and forth with Chris Benoit said, you and I both know that the health policy is a joke. Like, she was saying that there's what, like, nowadays, no. They'll bust you for smoking weed. But back in those days, yes, you could get around it. Like guys like Scott Steiner were allowed to exist. Okay. Come on. Yeah. Allegedly. But yeah, like that guy, like if you look at Scott Steiner, yeah, there was some help there. Possibly. Allegedly. But what I'm getting at is the tests are amazing now. Like you can't even take a goddamn heavy Advil, otherwise they're going to be giving you shit. But back in the day, there was ways around it. Like, and Chris, given the fact that he had such a high testosterone level, shows that was the case. In fact, that's definitive, undisputable evidence that was the case. So that was. Yes, like I understand. It wasn't roid rage, no, but the idea that they were so well tested that there's no way that could have ever possibly happened. Don't know about all that. I'm going to be honest with you. And we lost Tony, but Chicken,
I'm sure he'll be back shortly.
Like, I understand what you mean. They're all coming on there saying there's no way that could possibly be, but I'm also saying it's
never say never.
Roid rage, but the testosterone levels being so high. That's going to cause some.
Well, will it? Is there any actual studies or actual proof that high testosterone causes violence?
Bull sharks have the highest testosterone of any animal on the planet. They are also the most aggressive.
So are we bull sharks?
I'm using that as a proof of concept that an animal with an extremely high testosterone level
A mammal that swims in water with a very small brain and no intellect. A mammal that swims in water with no brain.
What I'm saying is we do have a proof of concept that an animal with an extremely high testosterone level will be the most aggressive of its entire species. So we do actually have those evidences in nature. And I'm sure
correlation does not equal causation.
No, I don't have a study down the front of my pants if you want me to pull it out. No. But I will guarantee
Phil.
If you look it up yourself, you will find it. That there's actually higher aggression levels with higher testosterone.
Correlation does not equal causation. You know this.
So what I will say also is when
it's almost 1-to-1, it almost does.
There's proven cases of high testosterone, but regardless of testosterone levels, humans have a brain to control impulses. So even with a high testosterone level, people who have anger issues are able to control how they interact with other people even regardless of testosterone influencing their decisions. Because if you go to any anger management classes, there's people who say, oh, well, today, like I almost had a breakout, almost punched this guy in the face just because he looked at me. So testosterone doesn't necessarily influence the human condition to how to fight or operate or react to a situation.
But not everybody has the same level of testosterone coursing through their veins, and not everybody has the same level of CTE brain damage, and not everybody has the same level of depression.
No,
so it's all irrelevant then.
Yeah, but what we're saying is that
I would say it's all actually.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'd say it's actually all quite relevant if you look.
I think it's all irrelevant.
Why?
Because none of it proves anything. None of it proves anything. CTE, I can see studies on CTE Like, we want to talk about CTE. I'm down with that one. I can believe in that one. There's a lot of science behind that one, causing a lot of problems. And when you look at the brain scans, let me see if I have it pulled up here. I think I did. His brain scans, he was of an 85-year-old man with dementia is how they described his brain scan, which that's fucking frightening.
So that is a good thing to say.
Give him the testosterone level of a horse. There'll be no problems.
No.
I'm sorry, guys. If you're saying that has no fucking influence whatsoever, I just can't see that.
Testosterone? No.
Testosterone,
I mean, it has some influence on how you behave, maybe
it
a little bit, but
Yes,
it really affects your
brain
body.
is diminished because of injury. You're going to fly off the handle a lot more. So that's what I'm getting at is, yes, it clearly plays some part in this cocktail of disaster that happened that horrible weekend. So, again, not to excuse or to justify, but I'm saying you have to look at it as a factor. You can't discount it.
Sure. I can say a factor. I just don't pin it all on that.
No.
No.
You can't hang your hat on testosterone just like you can't hang it on fucking steroids.
Level, the grief of loss, the relationship falling apart, the stress of his professional life possibly coming. He's going to have to retire at some point. All of this came together, and it made, as I alluded to earlier, it made the demon come out. And so, like I said, it's all of this is all justifications, but at the same time, like Kevin's alluded to, at the end of the night, Chris Benoit had personal agency over himself, and he made some horrible and evil decisions. And that's something that everybody that was a fan of his is going to have to find a way to move on from. And that's the unfortunate reality.
So, Tony, you sent me a link to the part 2 to the series. Was there a certain part you wanted me to pull up on there?
No, I just because there's people who haven't seen the documentary in question, and that's what brought this entire episode up, was watching this and kind of reliving this all again, and really seeing it played out in a dramatization in a documentary form. Watch this if you know who he was or you don't, because it's very intriguing. Like this basically covers everything we've discussed, plus the murders, plus the conspiracy. It touches on everything. But you can see the emotion in all these people. This is I encourage everybody to sit down and watch both parts of this, because it's so important. And this guy in particularly right here, he talks about the head injury. Chris Nowinski, who left the wrestling business and started focusing on CTE. It was after the autopsy, it was discovered, Chris's brain was basically a 95-year-old man with dementia and Alzheimer's, because he'd sustained so many concussions and so much brain damage. So do you fault an elderly person with dementia and Alzheimer's for doing something that they have no control of? If you don't fault them for that, you have to look at that the same way in this position, because
exactly
it's you're walking a line either way. It's impossible to say, okay, he didn't have control of his actions, but to a certain point he did. So following through with everything, he absolutely did at the end.
What I will say to follow that up with the dementia thing, there have been cases of people with Alzheimer's or dementia basically swiping at people, like punching, like whatever, like attacking people because they don't recognize them. Like their brain is so far gone that they're attacking family members and telling them to get away from them. So it's not, you can't even put it past it to say that he might have even forgot that he murdered his wife if his brain was that far gone. And then all of a sudden
my argument to that would be is he was texting and calling personal friends all weekend while the murders were happening.
Yep.
So he was cognizant of reality, and he actually told, I believe it was
Chavo.
He told Chavo Guerrero, "Hey, my son and my wife are sick and in the hospital, so I can't make it. I missed my flight, and he was making all these excuses because there was supposed to be pay-per-view that Sunday. And they were all asking him, like, hey, where you at? Where you at? He's like, I missed my flight. Wife and kid are sick. Like, he kept making excuses. So he was cognizant of what was going on. Like, he was talking, he was texting, he was communicating with people up until, what was it, Sunday morning? He sent the mysterious text of garage doors open, the dogs are out in the pool. Or in the area by the pool.
Yeah, so I just can't. It's very hard for me to get on board with. He was completely insane and just out of his gourd. It was at one point, like, again, like, don't remove too much moral agency from him and what he did. Like, there was a point, like, it's really crass and it's really horrible to say, but at the end of the day, it's like Kevin's alluded to. It's happened before a lot in history. It's looking like Chris did the old "you ain't leaving nobody," and it just escalated from there. And so we've all tried to find some reason, some excuse, some justification, but at the end of the day, like Tony said earlier, when you're trying to stare into the mind of madness, you don't expect a good explanation. So
I think while we're on the conspiracy trail, and Tony, you might have to help me out with this one. I've been a little distracted the last few hours, and I'll get to that later. But there was strange Wikipedia changes. And this is probably one of the littler known ones, but at 12:01 a.m., the like 14 hours before they found the bodies and the police actually arrived, Wikipedia's Chris Benoit page was updated to say that Chris Benoit was replaced by I can't remember the name of the wrestler that joined or that took over ECW that night, but said he was replaced by so-and-so because he has family problems or whatever because his wife had passed away. Now, nobody knew any of this. This was nothing. This was not in the media. Supposedly, nobody knew anybody had died at this point. But at 12:01 a.m., conveniently, somebody updates his Wikipedia page. Now, I get it. It's Wikipedia, and it's also back in 2007 when Wikipedia had a little bit less rules. They still had rules. Like, you couldn't just do anything you wanted. And people were saying, post your source. And he was like, there's multiple places on the internet talking about this right now. They actually found the guy. They pinged his IP address and went back and interviewed him. There was also an IP address back in Australia that was corroborating his story, and also uploading the same type of information. So there was people that knew about this beforehand. The fun part about those two people, now the Australia one was never investigated.
Yep.
That one was sad. Nobody knows. It was in Sydney, Australia. Okay, whatever. Now, the 19-year-old kid that they found in the same town as the headquarters of the WWE, Tony,
Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, there you go. Same town as the home base of WWE headquarters. Now, that's where it came from. Coincidence, maybe.
This sounds like a whole lot like how...
Two coincidences right together.
Well, it sounds like how 2 days after Kobe Bryant dies, there's a Netflix special memorializing him.
Or really fast production. Yeah.
That's really fucking fast. But that's just
in 2007 when the internet, the internet was still pretty popular in 2007. And like you said, Wikipedia wasn't the same animal it is now. We're talking about a random 19-year-old kid gets on Wikipedia and edits that, and it just so happens coincidentally that he's right about his wife dying, and he's
not only
in Stamford, Connecticut.
Not only those two facts, but he is also involved in other pro wrestlers in removing negative comments from their accounts on Wikipedia.
Chavo specifically, Chavo Guerrero.
Yeah, Chavo. He was a pro Chavo guy and took down bad comments of Chavo on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Well,
Everybody's ticker started spinning right there.
well,
Yeah.
like my first thing, other than the Nancy Benoit's wife died, the timeline thing was Chris missed a house show on Saturday. And he said, "Hey, I need you to cover for me. My wife and such are sick." And he told my wife and kid are sick. I'm not going to be able to make this house show. I'll see you at the pay-per-view on Sunday. And so from that point in Saturday until Sunday, when things got obviously worse, there could have been, Chavo working some of the sources. There could have been Chris Jericho, like telling some of the sheets, Chris might not make it to this. His family's sick. And at that point, the sheets just run with it. Oh, Chris Benoit family's sick. Chris's wife died. There's always that possibility. But
this kid had no affiliation with the WWE, though.
Yeah, but the fact that it was so on the nose about the right person who happened to be dead at that fucking time. Yeah. You're right, chicken. That one, everybody's ticker is kind of like, wait a minute here. What the fuck?
Not just that, but the police interview was recorded, and when they released it, they omitted like
3 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah, they omitted like 5 minutes from it. It's just weird. And
then the questions they asked were bullshit questions.
Yeah,
like none of them were like, do you have any affiliation with Chris Benoit or his associates or
right.
Like there was nothing like that. It was like, what's your name? What's your address? Who are your parents? Like, what's your affiliation? Why do you watch wrestling? Like those were the types of questions they asked this kid.
What?
Do you like peanut butter jelly sandwiches? Like,
yeah, and not
fuck yeah, I do.
It was also not just the Wikipedia. We're talking about people in like the WWE.com chat room were talking about it, and they had no fucking knowledge of this, but it was being discussed in like the website for World Wrestling Entertainment, their chat room, and they're talking about it, and they're like, no, we're just trolling. We're just doing to get a rise out of people. We're talking about it like when it happened, like the day it happened, the Sunday, the pay-per-view. People were talking about, he probably, he killed him. That was a comment in the chat room the day it happened. And it just so happens to be accurate. Like, ooh, what the fuck?
I got to give you that one, T. Like, how could that be that accurate about that? Like, we've all seen fake news reports about somebody died about this or somebody died. Like, I remember when, like, 99, there was a fake news report about The Rock dying in a car accident.
Yeah.
And it became big news for about an hour and a half. And then we all came, oh, no, he's fine. But to make up a fake news story about somebody dying who's actually fucking dead, that kid ought to go to Vegas because them some hella good odds. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Especially the way he said that his wife, like, due to family illness and everything, like, before it. Like, that's just, like, absurd.
That's the only reason I kind of put the, string the connections along of maybe Chavo heard this and now he's selling some rumors to the dirt sheets that maybe Chris is going to show up, and then the dirt sheets kind of run with it and make a rumor out of it, and kind of like that's the only, like, because I can kind of see if you get a string of custody of information that could possibly.
Can I give you my theory?
Let's hear it, chicken.
Yep.
I'm taking I've watched way too much information on this in the last 2 weeks. Like, you guys hyped me up to do episode 42. We were gonna pre-record it and release it, and then we were like, "Fuck it, let's do it live."
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
But I sat there and I watched all this stuff, and like everything, like, and I remember as a kid, like, we were always supposed to like Chavo. I always liked Eddie. I always liked Chris Benoit. You know how you get those instincts about feelings? Same feeling I talked about a couple weeks ago about Dr. Fauci. Like, there's just something about the guy I just don't care for. And I had the same thing about Chavo back in the day. And of course, there's character playing, and we were kids. We were a lot younger when Chavo came around. But anyway, like, and then I watch all of this, and I read all the articles, and I see all the evidence, and I see everything played out, and then take emotion out of everything. Just take all your emotions out of it and say, if Chris Benoit didn't do it, who had a motive? What was that motive? And could they have pulled it off? And who could that have been? And there's very few people, if you take the emotion out of it, your personal emotion, not the emotion of the situation, obviously. This is an emotional crime, obviously. So the way I see it, the only person that could have done anything bigger, whether you did a cahoots with a Vince McMahon or whatnot, you want to make a bigger conspiracy out of it, whatever. But I think after Eddie died, the drug use in the WWE was so bad, so prevalent, and so well known, and they were trying to squash it already, but it was still happening. And I think Chavo found a way to stop it. He knew Chris was beating his wife. He knew there was marital problems at home. He knew they were secluded. And he knew a lot about Chris. And he had money. It was a secluded home. They could have hired anybody. And who did Chris talk to on the phone and send text messages to? Chavo.
Yeah.
And Chavo's roommate. Chavo could have easily said, hey, call my cell phone. I'll talk to you for 5 minutes. I don't care what you say. Here's what I'm going to tell the press. You send me these text messages, word for word. You send me one from your wife's phone too before you kill yourself. Or you kill him, rather. Whoever was there to do the murders and span this out. How would you try to frame somebody and to make drugs go away in professional sports? This is the ultimate plan. What did Chavo do after Benoit? He was around for a few years, but he advocated. He advocated.
To tell you,
he advocated mainly to remove. He was on this big anti-drug campaign. He went crazy on this anti-drug campaign. That's what it was all about.
Yeah,
it was all about Eddie.
Guerrero.
You guys are right. It's because it was all about Eddie Guerrero, and he was like, "Holy shit, Chris is already fucked in the head. This dude's gonna not make it past fucking 60 years old because he's already fucking goner. His wife and him are fighting all the goddamn time. His child has a fucking mental disorder. Easy scapegoat. Easy way to take it down." You heard it here, folks. My conspiracy is Chavo. Fucking set them all up. But I'm a conspiratorial person to begin with, so don't take this shit I say to heart. But I use a little bit of Occam's razor when I take everything back, and I pull it all back, and I'm like, if it wasn't a murder, a double murder suicide, who could it have been? I don't think it was ex-husband guy. Maybe he was involved. Maybe he got paid to have something to do with it. Sure. But I don't think he was smart enough, and he's still not smart enough. That dude's a dipshit. Chavo. Chavo's a smart dude.
You want to tackle this one, T? Or should I?
I think Chavo's involved in this.
I'll give you my quick thoughts. Chavo, after Eddie and after Chris passed away, holy shit, he didn't do a lot in the wrestling business. One of his gimmicks was to be a guy named Kerwin White. He renounced his Mexican heritage and became a white guy to the extreme, wearing polos, driving golf carts. It was awful. Everybody hated it.
So he wanted out of wrestling then.
No, he was given a shit gimmick, and he tried to turn chicken shit into chicken salad.
He tried.
He fucking committed to that gimmick.
He did. He did.
So was that a you do this gimmick or I'm going to turn you in from Vince McMahon then?
No. This was no, because you can look at the WWF over decades and decades and
tickle
look
me.
at
Tickle me.
Come on.
Why would he do that gimmick?
Storyline. Because so many guys. Okay, look at the fucking Undertaker. The Undertaker was handed a goddamn zombie mortician gimmick and somehow made that work. But for every Undertaker, there's 999 guys who couldn't make the shit gimmick that they were given work. But they all try to commit to it because it's their big chance at breaking out. Chavo wanted to break out.
Ronnie, I think you're right. I think Kevin Sullivan was involved, but I think it was Chavo. Chavo was the mastermind.
Chicken, not to chicken shit all over your theory here, but Chavo Guerrero was with a traveling circus of wrestlers that entire weekend.
I'm not saying Chavo killed him.
50 witnesses that saw him there.
I'm not saying he was the one that killed him. I'm saying he had the means and the money to do it and the motive.
What motive, though? I don't understand.
To end drugs in professional sports because it killed his brother. Why not make a martyr out of not only his brother was already a martyr, let's fucking take it the next step. What did you see on the news for the next 2 months after that was steroids, they're killing everybody in the drug use in the WWE.
You mean Sammy Sosa wasn't enough?
Persona took on. I don't know, man.
I'm just telling you my theory. You can shit on my theory all you want. It's my theory.
I understand what you're saying, and yeah, if somebody was going to be involved, if there's,
I was doing shock value because you guys weren't bringing anything to the show, so fuck off. No.
Well,
how about this? Sammy Sosa killed Chris Benoit. There you go. There's
Sammy Sosa. Now that makes no goddamn sense. Now mine sounds legitimate.
Chris took all of Sammy's steroids, so he was upset.
Kevin, it's okay.
I'm kidding.
But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's the fact that we all have to accept the idea that somebody that we watched when we were young did a very evil act, and he was an extremely high-profile person. And if you've ever watched the show The Blacklist, there's an excellent quote about it, and this is in Benoit's case, it's even more so. Any suicide is kind of like when a grenade goes off in like a restaurant. At first, the people closest to it are completely destroyed, and then the people farther away, they're pretty mangled. And then the people further from it, they're who strived hard to make it to the top of his industry, and in that striving allowed his personal demons to consume him entirely.
Very likely. Tony?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, I get what you're saying with Chavo. Like, if anybody was actually going to be involved, people automatically want to point, connecting dots. But does he go all the way to kill a family? I don't think so. I don't think Kevin Sullivan kills an entire family. Maybe he kills Chris. Maybe he kills Nancy. He's not going to kill the son. He's not going to kill anybody, but probably Chris. I think all the conspiracy things take out who they're trying to seek revenge on out of the equation, because at the end of the day, Chris, his wife, and his son died. If somebody's trying to seek revenge on Chris Benoit would have died, and it would have looked like a suicide, and that would have been the end of the story, and Chris Benoit would be in the Hall of Fame. That's not the case, and there's way too much data and statistics and flat-out proof that suggests Chris Benoit had the perfect cocktail of a fucked head, a bad depression, an emotional state, maybe some booze in his system, kills his wife in a panic-induced, depressed, roid rage attack of mental lapse, doesn't know what to do, waits 12 hours, decides, well, nobody else can take care of our son but me and Nancy, and I killed Nancy, so now I have to euthanize him in a... I'll drug him first and try to make it painless, and then I will find a way to kill myself, and I'll put all these Bibles around, and hopefully I will be forgiven. And that's what his mind state was, and I believe that that's what happened. But if you want to look at the conspiracy theories, I think the only thing that holds any weight would be the Wikipedia thing, because that just looks fishy on the surface. It smells fishy.
Yeah, we probably should have went into that a little bit more. The Wikipedia thing, because it got changed several times, and there was like multiple points, and a lot of them didn't make sense, and they were arguing back and forth. I was trying to I watched videos on it, but I can't find like a timeline transcript of how the Wikipedia thing went down. But the whole thing's fucking fishy. Like, it was not cool. And all of this shit happened well before the cops ever even showed up. So either somebody got tipped off, or the super small likely chance this 19-year-old kid that lives in the same town as the WWE headquarters and has fucking connections with Chavo. Just how many coincidences do you have to have at once before you go, bullshit? Like that's kind of how I feel about the Wikipedia one.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dive deeper into that. We can do a repeat of this one too. We'll get some crowd reaction on this one. Love to see some comments and circle back.
Yeah, this one we've actually got some interesting feedback on, because it's a controversy, and unfortunately, the reason why there's going to be such rampant speculation is because there are some facts that are unknown and will forever remain unknowable. And so that's where the human mind will begin to speculate. And so that's why it is a fascinating thing to dive into. And also, especially for me and Tony, and for you as well, Chicken, this was
a big moment.
Yeah, it was a big moment in our lives that doesn't
the day the music died.
Yeah,
when Benoit died was the day wrestling died.
Yeah. A lot of people, even for me, I couldn't I still to this day have not watched a single Chris Benoit match, and I don't know if I can. It took a tremendous. Oh God, there's Dave Benoit. Yeah, his interview was fucking brutal, man. That was one of the points where I had to get up and walk away during one of his worst breakdowns. That was, and like I said, it was Tony that kind of brought me back to wrestling altogether when it was in 2015, The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, Hell in a Cell, and it took that to even get me back into it. And wrestling is kind of an interesting bug. Once it's in you, you can't get rid of it.
I had actually, about the time that happened, I kind of strayed away from WWE altogether. I started watching TNA and pretty much anything else besides WWE, because unknowingly, at the time, I just it was too hard to watch it because of that. So I started latching onto any other wrestling I could because I wanted to get away from it. But I continued watching wrestling in one form or another, and it was about 2015, 2014 before I finally came back to WWE to really start watching it again. I didn't even realize at the time that the Chris Benoit ordeal had kind of pushed me away from Vince McMahon and the WWE product.
He snapped from every form of trauma that his brain, whether emotionally or physically, had endured, and he killed his wife, and after he killed her, he just what the fuck have I done? Sat and freaked out for 12 hours, called people to try and buy himself time, and then realized that his only choice left was, for some reason in his brain, to kill his son and then himself.
That's probably the Occam's razor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and like I said, like Tony, it was like you said, Chicken. The day the music died for a lot of people, and it really did take a long time for a lot of healing to happen. Like I was not interested in wrestling at all. I went and started training mixed martial arts, and I started just diving into that world because it was something kind of similar but different, and it was something more real to me. It was something different and detached. And then I slowly started getting back into it, but yeah, that's the thing is no matter how bad the tragedy is, wrestling still can be that happy place for a lot of people. So it will eventually bring you back in.
Just to like reflect on influence, like we showed it. I was trying to rewind the video and trying to find the spot, but I remember the tux he wore at his wedding. He did the little button up here instead of the traditional tie or bow tie or anything. He just did I can't even remember what they call that, but it's just the big button at the top of your neck. And I remember it was a sophomore prom, or maybe it was freshman prom. I can't remember. It was the year before he died. Like he influenced me to have that same tux. Like I wanted that tux. I didn't want the tie. I didn't want the long tie or a bow tie. I wanted the little button there. And I was like, yeah, fucking Chris Benoit looked badass wearing that fucking thing. So I wanted it. Like that's the type of influence he had. Even though even in high school, I wasn't that huge into wrestling, but I was still a Chris Benoit fan. Like, that's how influential he was. And yeah.
I will say, I feel like my love for wrestling faded before the whole Chris Benoit thing happened. Because I remember like playing like Super Nintendo with you guys, playing like the old WWF game, not even WWE. And like playing with like Undertaker, Sting, Gold Dust, and like all of those guys. And then like as I get older, I just kind of like faded. But like just hearing how like someone so influential was able to just like impact very negatively as like that kind of sport where I feel like the community is very close. Like everyone was just, it seems like heartbroken from what I've read, how you guys have been talking about it. And it's just kind of like weird to see that, like, I just missed that gap.
That's a very good way to describe it, Kevin. Yes, the wrestling community is very close. Like it's not a huge community and everybody kind of knows everybody one way or another. Everybody's at least aware of everybody. And when that happened, yeah, it reverberated and sent a shockwave throughout the entire wrestling world. And yeah, it was still to this day, like Tony said, when he was watching that Vince McMahon segment, like goosebumps. It's just, yeah, it had been years since I'd seen that, Chicken.
Yeah. No, Tony, any final thoughts? I'm gonna pull up a couple of more little videos to round us out. We'll wrap this bitch up here shortly, but anything else there?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything we needed to. I do suggest everybody check out The Dark Side of the Ring, Chris Benoit, parts 1 and 2. If you can, Chicken, throw it in the comments for people to click on it. Check that out. I think I think it's mandatory viewing for anybody who likes anything related to that, not just wrestling, but it's incredibly interesting. It's hard to watch, but it's worth the watch. And then to kind of deflate the Kevin Sullivan conspiracy, listen to a couple weeks ago on the Jim Cornette Experience. Kevin Sullivan came on to Jim Cornette's podcast and gave a real in-depth discussion and interview about Chris and Nancy Benoit, and it sets some things in a different light. It really puts things into a different perspective because Kevin Sullivan hasn't been very vocal about this, since 2007. And if anybody wants to check that out, I highly recommend it. they talk about it pretty frankly, and Kevin's pretty open about his relationship with Nancy and his relationship with Chris even, and it's kind of eye-opening on some different levels that hadn't been really present before. So check that out as well. But this is one of those stories that it's hard to listen to, it's hard to talk about, it's hard to digest, but yeah, it's kind of important on a lot of different levels.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Phil. I'll let you.
I was gonna say, like you said, Tony, this is very hard to talk about. It's not, we've been talking about doing this episode, but we've also kind of been putting it off it off because fuck, this is rough shit to talk about, and it is kind of an emotional roller coaster because, like I said, for me, it was shattering. It was a shattering experience, and even now, it's still one of those that, like, but I think, like, yes, now we can have a more sober discussion, a more sober look at what happened. And even then, yes, it's going to be one of those moments that will have reverberating effects for a very, very long time. But all I'm going to say is my final words for this evening, Chicken, is thank you all for having us, folks. This has been a lovely, lovely evening to discuss a very hard topic. Be good to the people that you love and be better to the people that you could be better by. So all that being said, Chicken, Kevin, it's all you, boys.
Kevin, round out your comments before I play the dastardly WWE segment that bans Chris Benoit.
I feel like it's like Phil and Tony have both touched on. It's a hard subject, obviously. One, the death of children is enough on its own, but the death of children by their own parents' hands is, I feel like, a different kind of evil. But it's kind of like necessary to like talk about this because to understand what happened is teaching other people how to recognize either other people's influence around you or how you could influence others to maybe save future victims from this kind of thing. Either stop people from using things that influence their mind or stop them doing things that affect their mind and body and give them a break from it. So just kind of like everyone look out for everyone and be a brother, be a sister.
Love it. We got people trying to make us drink as we know we're rounding out the show. I am going to try to end the show on a couple of short clips here, little heart grabbers. But yeah, I think Kevin makes a good point. Like, I think it I'm like, oh, fucking Eddie or Chavo fucking did this. But if Chavo didn't do this, Chavo got the call or he got the text. That was the scary text. And he got it not only from Chris, but then he got it from Chris's wife.
Yeah.
And he didn't react to it. And, whether you react to it, but that's one of those things that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life, whether he was involved or not. Like, if he's not involved, like, he was a really good friend. And, man, that's got to be a son of a bitch. So when you get that weird text, from a friend, even if you haven't heard from him in 5-10 years, like, you better reach out to him. You better be like, hey, dude, what's going on? Like, what do you need? Like, what? When they say my garage door's open and the dogs are out back, you fucking call them. Like,
so
you don't wait.
As much as this might divert it, but as someone who's dealt with military brethren committing suicide, it's the same sort of thing. You reach out to those who you feel are out of their norm. Whether, like Chicken said, whether it's been years or just a couple of days since you last talked to someone, if someone says something that you recognize is not their norm,
Yeah, say something.
help.
Yeah.
Reach out. They're either dealing with some shit or they did some shit that's making them deal with some shit. Just be a helpful person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Phil?
Yep.
Yep.
We all got somebody that could need an extra helping hand, but yes, we've all got people that we've been concerned about. And we've all got people that we could have helped better in the past. I suppose if there is to try and derive any kind of lesson that we can apply, it's that. If you know somebody that's struggling, if you know somebody that's having a hard time, like I said earlier, do good by the people that you love and do better by the people you could do better by. That's really the only lesson that I could hope that you derive from all of this. So, Chicken,
All
take it away, sir.
that being said. We'll do it a gentle version tonight because it's a little somber tone. Sorry to end on somber tones tonight, but it was kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. Fellas, please mute yourselves as I'm going to play some videos here at the end as we round out the show and say goodnight. As always, appreciate you tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, share this with your friends. Let everybody know what we're doing, what we're talking about, and if you have ideas for future shows, let us know. As always, reach out to us at Big Buckin' on Facebook. Check us out, Dog and Chicken Show on YouTube. And check us out on Locals or Reuben Report app. Love you. Appreciate you. As always. Love you. Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last night on Monday Night Raw, the WWE presented a special tribute show, recognizing the career of Chris Benoit. However, now some 26 hours later, the facts of this horrific tragedy are now apparent. Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight. On the contrary, tonight's show will be dedicated to everyone who has been affected by this terrible incident. This evening marks the first step of the healing process. Tonight, WWE performers will do what they do better than anyone else in the world: entertain you.